This audiobook unveils the hidden design behind your choices, struggles, and synchronicities. Through timeless wisdom and mind-shifting stories, you'll learn how to decode the signals, align with your true path, and let life flow with stunning precision. Once you hear this, nothing feels accidental again. There are moments in life that seem unexplainable, brief flashes of clarity, eerie coincidences, or the sense that you've lived a moment before. These are not accidents, these are invitations. Subtle and sacred, they are fragments of a greater memory you have not entirely forgotten. You were never lost, you only closed your eyes. And now something is nudging them open. This is your invitation to remember. Long before you were taught to follow the noise of the world, before logic built fences around your sense of what is possible, you lived in a space of raw awareness. You didn't know the names of things, but you knew how they felt. You could sense the energy in a room, feel the truth in a person's voice, and detect the gentle tug of something unseen pulling you towards certain moments. You were not separate from life. You were dancing with it. That dance never stopped. You only stopped listening to the music. Now the invitation arrives again, not in thunder or spectacle, but in the quiet pull of this moment. The very fact that these words have reached you is proof that a part of you already knew they would. You did not stumble upon this message. You summoned it. Something ancient and eternal within you has guided your eyes to this page, just as it has guided countless seekers before you. Not because it holds something you lack, but because it reflects something you are. Your awareness is not an accident of biology or the product of random thought. It is the call sign of your soul. And when you feel the inner resonance of certain truths, it is not because you are learning something new. It is because you are remembering something timeless. That recognition, that electric hum inside your chest, is the signal that your consciousness has begun to realign with the greater pattern from which it came. You may have thought that life was something happening to you, chaotic and unexplained, but now you begin to see it differently. Patterns emerge, synchronicities increase. A shift in your thoughts is mirrored by a shift in your experience. What once felt random now begins to feel deliberate. What once felt disconnected now feels alive, intelligent, aware. There is no path to return to. You are not trying to find the light. You are the light. What is unfolding is not a journey of acquisition, but of remembrance. Your wholeness has never been in question. It has only been waiting for you to recognize it. Close your eyes. Breathe. Somewhere deep inside you, something ancient stirs. It has no name. It needs no proof. It is the part of you that remembers, the part that has never forgotten. Welcome it back. You're not reading this by chance. You're being called home. It begins with the questions that whisper in the quiet. Why do certain events repeat? Why does tragedy strike with strange symmetry? Why do moments of joy feel so fleeting, yet somehow familiar? Beneath the surface of every answer lies a hidden rhythm, a pattern, ancient and precise, humming beneath the surface of what we call chaos. Chaos is not the absence of order, it is the absence of your perception of it. Look closer. The randomness begins to ripple. A phrase overheard one day becomes relevant the next. A number follows you. A stranger says something you were just thinking. The universe is not disorganized. It is meticulously poetic, but it speaks a language most never learn to read. You were taught to focus on the noise, the missed deadlines, the surprise betrayals, the sudden blessings, but these are not disconnected. They are notes in a larger song. You are not meant to understand each note individually, but to feel the composition as a whole. And when you pause long enough to observe, the harmony becomes audible. Life is not happening in fragments. It is a continuum of energy, weaving meaning through experiences, signs, symbols, and emotional echoes. The hardship that broke you also opened something sacred. The love that bloomed unexpectedly did so in soil tilled by forgotten tears. What looks like chaos is the clever disguise of sacred symmetry. There are no throwaway moments, no insignificant encounters, no wasted pain. Each moment is etched with direction, and though it may appear unclear in the present, the pattern reveals itself to those willing to step back far enough to see it. Consider how lightning forks wildly across the sky, an apparent mess of electric madness. But study its flow and you'll see it always seeks the path of least resistance. So too does life. It bends toward awareness. It guides by resonance. It echoes what is needed until you hear it. You are not a pawn of disorder. You are a participant in design, and the very desire to find meaning is your clue that meaning is there. Chaos never existed, only unread codes. Begin watching your world like a sacred text. What appears again and again? What themes do your struggles share? What lesson continues until it's learned? Start asking not, why is this happening to me? But, what is this showing me about the pattern I've been living? When you stop cursing the chaos and start translating it, the shift is immediate. The storm becomes the signal. The struggle becomes the scripture. The path appears, precisely where it always was, waiting to be seen. The pattern is not outside you, it is you. Life does not need to be controlled, it needs to be understood. Most people live as if life is a chain reaction. External events trigger emotions, which define their state of being, but that's not how reality works. What you see around you is not the cause of what you feel, it is the result. You are not an effect of the world. You are its instigator. Your perception is the first domino. Reality is not neutral, it is responsive. It doesn't dictate, it echoes. It doesn't impose, it reflects. You are not a camera capturing the world. You are a projector casting it. Consider the days when everything seems to go wrong from the moment you wake. It's not the spilled coffee or traffic that truly ruins your day. It's the energy you carried into those moments that set the tone. A single thought, this is going to be a bad day, becomes a command, and reality obeys. Likewise, recall the moments you felt invincible. The world bent to you, doors opened, people smiled, traffic flowed. Nothing external had fundamentally changed. You had, and the universe mirrored it. You do not experience the world as it is. You experience the world as you are. Your beliefs, assumptions, and emotional states are filters. They shape what enters your awareness and how it arrives. A person who believes life is against them will find constant evidence to support that claim, not because life is cruel, but because their lens only lets in what confirms their inner script. This is not metaphor, it is mechanics. Consciousness is causal. The world outside is not objective ground, it is energetic feedback. If you want to change what you see, start by changing where you see from. This is not blame, it is liberation. Because if your inner world writes the script, then you are free to rewrite it. You are never stuck in circumstance. You are only ever stuck in perception. There is no power in reacting. True power lies in originating. The moment you shift your perspective, the world must follow. It cannot help it. It is tethered to you by design. Start with a small test. For the next day, carry the knowing, not the hope, that people will be unusually kind. Don't look for proof. Expect it, embody it, then watch how life contorts to match you. You do not have to wait for the world to change. You change, and the world must, because you are the cause. The experience of life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. There is a frequency to everything, thoughts, feelings, objects, outcomes. Your awareness is the antenna, and you are always tuned to something. Most people have no idea they are broadcasting at all. They assume reality is fixed, and they're simply navigating its unchangeable terrain. But awareness is not passive. It is magnetic. Wherever your attention goes, energy flows, and whatever you consistently tune to becomes your lived truth. The mind is not a receiver of what is, it is a calibrator of what becomes. Think of it like a radio. Stations of joy, abundance, despair, fear, love, they are all broadcasting. Your internal dial determines which one you live in. Have you ever noticed how two people can walk into the same room and experience it entirely differently? One sees opportunity, the other sees threat. The room didn't change, their tuning did, and the frequency they brought with them shaped their perception, their responses, and eventually, their results. This means that you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are tuned to. If your internal antenna is constantly focused on lack, you'll notice more reasons to feel that way. Even blessings will appear as threats. But if your tuning is set to gratitude, life suddenly offers up gifts where there were once only problems. The sacred secret is this: you are never disconnected from the reality you desire. You are simply on a different frequency than it. Shift your awareness, and the experience follows. Your attention is sacred. It is your most powerful resource. Spend it with intention. If you're always scanning for problems, you will amplify them. If you scan for possibility, you will find doors you didn't even know existed. Each morning before the day begins, ask yourself, what frequency am I tuning to today? Hold that setting like a note in your chest. When you drift, and you will, return to the signal. Your awareness is not just observing life, it is composing it. And when you start treating your focus like the divine instrument it is, reality begins to sing in harmony with your truest self. You don't need to control the world, you only need to retune your awareness. The rest will adjust. You speak all day long, not just with your mouth, but with your mind. And reality hears every word. The universe is not filtering your transmissions. It is not asking whether you mean what you say, or whether your thoughts are jokes, complaints, or fears. It is only asking one question: what is the frequency of this signal? And then, like an obedient mirror, it reflects it back in form. Most people think thoughts are harmless, passing clouds, but every thought is a command, an instruction broadcast through vibration. The casual "I can't," "nothing ever works," "this is too hard," is not dismissed by the field of reality. It is received, it is processed, and it is made real. This is not punishment, it is perfection. Reality does not discriminate, it creates, in accordance with your dominant signal. You do not get what you beg for, you get what you broadcast. This means that awareness must be paired with accountability. You are never simply observing the world, you are co-authoring it. Each thought is a brushstroke on the canvas of your future. Every belief, a seed planted in the garden of what must grow. So what are you saying to life? Not just in words, but in frequency. If your inner dialogue is saturated with fear, doubt, and blame, then life becomes a hall of echoes, confirming what you've unconsciously declared. But shift the signal, even slightly, and the entire world bends toward that new message. Start paying attention. Begin catching yourself mid-thought. Ask, is this something I want made real? If not, change the signal, not out of fear, but out of creative authority. You don't need to beg the universe. You don't need to plead for miracles. You only need to speak in the language of what you choose to create. Declare it, embody it, live from it. Because reality is not asking what you hope for, it's asking what you're telling it is true. You are not given what you deserve. You are given what you believe. This truth may unsettle at first, but it is the key to your freedom. Reality does not consult fairness, it consults frequency. And belief is the code that tells the universe what your frequency permits. Beliefs are not thoughts you think once. They are truths you accept without question. They are the silent contracts you make with the universe. If you believe success is reserved for the lucky, then even your best effort will yield struggle. If you believe love comes with suffering, then pain will wrap itself around every connection, not because the universe is cruel, but because it is obedient. It always follows your command, even the unconscious ones. Your beliefs form the law of your personal universe. They are invisible, but they are absolute. Like gravity, they do not need your approval to function. You cannot escape their influence. You can only replace them. This is why affirmations often fail when layered on top of limiting beliefs. Saying, "I am abundant," while still believing money never sticks around, is like painting a wall without cleaning the mold underneath. The foundation will always win, so you must become aware. Trace your current experience back to the beliefs holding it in place. Not what you want to believe, but what you actually believe. Look at what you consistently expect. Look at what you assume is true in moments of stress or doubt. That is where the real law resides. The beauty of belief is that it is not permanent. It is chosen, reinforced, and therefore it can be rewritten. To shift your life, you must shift what you hold as unshakable. When you install a new belief, not as wishful thinking, but as an unchallenged truth, the universe must realign to reflect it. Start small. Choose one belief to upgrade. Perhaps, "I always figure things out," or "good things are always making their way to me." Don't chant it. Live it. Let every choice reflect it. Let your actions become evidence that this new law is already in place. Belief doesn't start with proof, it creates it. The question is not, "Is this true?" The question is, "What would happen if I lived as though it were?" The universe will answer with manifestation. Your life is not dictated by random events. It is written by law, and that law is authored by belief. You have been spoken to your entire life, not in words or declarations, but in moments, in symbols, in patterns. Life has never been silent. It has always been in dialogue with you, through what you call coincidence, déjà vu, repetition, intuition. But only now are you ready to truly listen. The universe does not use human language. It speaks in energy, and energy communicates in resonance. You don't just hear it, you feel it. That chill on your skin when something is said with eerie timing. That gut pull when a decision feels wrong despite all logic. That number you keep seeing. That phrase that keeps finding you. These are not random, they are messages. Every symbol is a signpost. Every synchronicity is a confirmation. The pattern of life is constantly weaving meaning around you, customizing each moment to mirror the questions within your soul. But why symbols? Why not just speak directly? Because symbols bypass the analytical mind. They reach into your intuitive intelligence, the part of you that existed before language, before logic, before the ego insisted that only what is measurable is real. Symbols are the bridge between your conscious questions and the universe's energetic replies. The trick is not to decode them with your brain, but to feel their frequency. A feather on your path is not just a feather. It may be a whisper from your guides, a reminder of presence. A sudden song on the radio is not just music. It may be the answer to a thought you had minutes earlier. Repetition is the universe underlining its message. Begin recording the signs, noticing their patterns. What shows up when you are aligned? What appears when you are out of sync? Life is not a monologue. It is a responsive, intelligent dance. And your willingness to see meaning in what others ignore is the first step to fluency in the language of the unseen. The more you acknowledge this language, the louder it becomes. The more you respond, the clearer it gets. Eventually, life becomes a living oracle, guiding you, warning you, celebrating with you. You are not alone. You are in dialogue. And now finally you're remembering how to listen. Your life is not being built in the outer world. It's being drafted in the hidden chambers of your mind. Every image you hold, every scenario you rehearse, every outcome you expect becomes a plank in the structure of your lived reality. The mind is not a storage unit, it's a studio. Every thought is not a memory, it's a design. And whatever you continuously design with feeling becomes form. Most people are building unconsciously. They hold blueprints filled with fear, failure, rejection. Then they're surprised when the physical house matches the sketch. Your mental blueprints are the first creation. Reality is only the second. This is why visualization works, not because it's magic, but because it hands your inner architect the proper drawings to work from. But visualization isn't enough if your emotional energy doesn't match the vision. You can imagine success all day, but if you feel undeserving, the final product will collapse or never complete. The blueprint must be saturated with belief. This means clarity is key. The clearer the picture, the easier it is to build. Vague hopes yield vague results. Specific vision combined with feeling becomes a force of precision creation. Think of your mind like a draftsman's table. What are you sketching today? Are you rehearsing problems or rehearsing solutions? Are you repeating arguments or imagining resolutions? Every repeated mental scene is a request to reality. Choose wisely. Once you understand your mind as architect, you stop reacting to the world and begin creating it. The world outside bends to the blueprints inside. The life you want is not hiding from you. It's waiting for you to design it with detail, faith, and energetic commitment. Then reality simply builds what you've already drawn. You are not thinking your life into existence. You are feeling it there. Thoughts direct your awareness, but emotions charge your frequency. And frequency is what shapes reality. In this universe, everything responds to vibration, and nothing vibrates more potently than the energy of a fully felt emotion. Emotions are not distractions, they are signals. They are not random storms, they are creative forces. Every feeling you entertain is like a tuning fork. When you live in fear, you attract experiences that validate fear. When you live in gratitude, you summon more to be grateful for. But here's what most don't understand. You cannot fake your frequency. You can repeat affirmations all day, but if underneath them lives anxiety, frustration, or bitterness, that's the signal you're broadcasting. Reality doesn't respond to words. It responds to resonance. This doesn't mean you suppress emotion. Quite the opposite. It means you learn to feel with awareness, to stop fearing your feelings and start listening to them. They tell you where you are tuned. They point to what you're creating. When your emotions rise, don't drown them in distraction. Ask, what frequency am I generating? Then choose if that's the experience you want amplified. The path is not emotional control, it's emotional mastery. It's the art of choosing your frequency before circumstance dictates it. Start each day with a frequency selection, not a task list, but an emotional intention. Today I live from peace. Today I radiate certainty. Then carry it, anchor it, breathe from it. Life mirrors your emotional signature. Change the signal and the mirror changes. We have been trained to believe that matter comes first, that our lives are shaped by the physical, jobs, people, locations, circumstances. But this is the grand illusion. Matter is not the master, it is the mirror. Everything begins in consciousness. Every structure, relationship, triumph, or breakdown was once a thought, an emotion, a pattern. The physical world is not the cause, it is the effect. You don't fix the mirror by changing your reflection. You fix it by changing what's being reflected. Your job isn't to rearrange the world, it's to rearrange your awareness. When you truly understand this, power returns. You are not at the mercy of the external. You are the origin point. Consciousness creates. Matter responds. Think of it this way. Reality is the residue of your consistent awareness, not a punishment, not a reward, just an echo. And the beautiful part, change the song and the echo follows. Stop waiting for matter to move before you allow your energy to shift. Don't ask the world to change. Be the change, and the world must follow. This is law, not luck. Your consciousness is not inside your body. Your body exists within your consciousness. Your life does not happen in a place. It happens in a pattern. You are the source. You are the signal. And once you live from that knowing, nothing outside you can hold power over what unfolds within. In a world obsessed with motion, silence is often mistaken for emptiness. But silence is not void. It is volume turned inward. It is not absence. It is presence distilled. And it is in this sacred stillness that truth speaks loudest. The deepest revelations do not arrive in noise. They do not shout over your distractions. They wait in the quiet, the space between thoughts, the breath between worries, the pause between plans. That is where life delivers its clearest messages, not because silence is dramatic, but because it is undistorted. Stillness is the original state. Before chaos, before questions, before striving, there was presence, there was being. When you return to that stillness, you return to yourself. You step back into alignment with the pattern that is already perfect, already whole, already wise. Most people cannot hear the truth because their minds are too full. They confuse mental chatter for thought, planning for preparation, anxiety for alertness. But truth does not compete. It waits patiently for you to listen. To hear, you must first empty, not forever, just long enough to hear the whisper beneath the noise. The truth is never far, it's just quiet, and it will not force its way through your busyness. The stillness you avoid is the source of the clarity you crave. Consider the insights that arrive when you finally stop trying to solve something. The solution appears in the shower, on a walk, in a quiet moment. Why? Because you became receptive. You opened the door. And the deeper intelligence that is always trying to reach you was finally allowed in. You do not need to chase wisdom. You need to create space for it. Start with 5 minutes. Sit, breathe, listen. Don't try to make something happen. Simply notice what arises when you do not interfere. At first you may only hear your own noise, but stay. Beneath that static, the frequency of truth is always playing. Stillness is not retreat. It is access. It is the point where the eternal pattern flows through you, unfiltered. And from that place, the right decisions, the clear vision, the grounded peace, all become natural. Stillness is not passive. It is the most powerful alignment you can enter. It is where you stop doing and begin being. And in being, all things become possible. The world will not get quieter, but you can. And when you do, the truth will meet you there. Long before textbooks and formulas, there were mystics, quiet observers of nature, of dreams, of the spaces between sound. These weren't fortune tellers or escape artists. They were pattern readers, souls who saw the architecture beneath the appearance of things. They did not invent laws. They remembered them. The mystics knew what modern life forgets, that everything visible flows from the invisible, and everything that happens in time was shaped outside of it. They studied not what the world did, but what it mirrored. They listened to dreams, to symbols, to the stars. They recognized that language was not only spoken by people, but by reality itself. They understood the seasons of the soul, the phases of transformation, the code of vibration, and they knew that every pattern had a counterpart in the cosmos. The spiral in a shell mirrored the swirl of a galaxy. The rhythm of breath echoed the tides. The rise and fall of empires mimicked the human journey of growth and ego. They taught through stories, not statements, through experience, not dogma. They understood that truth cannot be memorized. It must be felt. They passed on sacred knowledge not through instruction, but through initiation, because to know the pattern, you must live it. The mystics were not removed from life. They were embedded within it. They baked bread, raised families, tilled land, but they did it with awareness. Each action, each task became a ritual, a moment of communion with the great intelligence humming beneath all form. You are not separate from this lineage. You feel it in your bones, don't you? The sense that more is going on than the news or the numbers reveal, the hunches that come from nowhere, the quiet understanding that life is not happening randomly, that everything is connected. These are not quirks, they are the awakening of your inner mystic. You too are a pattern whisperer, you always have been, but now you are remembering. You don't need robes or titles, you need silence, you need presence. You need the willingness to see with new eyes, to feel instead of analyze, to sense instead of conclude. The ancient wisdom isn't locked away, it's embedded in every sunset, every heartbeat, every coincidence. The question is no longer whether the pattern exists, it is whether you will remember how to hear it. You do not have to become something new. You only have to return to the one who already knows. Life is not silent. It is responsive. Every moment, every encounter, every challenge or breakthrough is feedback, not judgment, not punishment, just information. Vibrational report cards on the state of your consciousness. What you experience is what you radiate, not what you think occasionally, but what you habitually expect, believe, feel. That energy becomes a signal, and life, like a mirror with perfect fidelity, sends back reflections that match it exactly. If you hold fear as your baseline, you will encounter reasons to fear. If you hold love as your constant, the world will appear more generous. It is not magic, it is resonance. You are not being tested, you are being shown. The mistake is assuming events have inherent meaning. They don't. They only carry the meaning your vibration has attached to them. An empty inbox could mean rejection or spaciousness. A delay could mean failure or divine timing. The difference is not in the event. It's in the frequency. Feedback is not always comfortable, but it is always useful. It points you not toward blame, but toward awareness. If something keeps repeating, it's not because life is broken. It's because something in your energy is still broadcasting that script. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this reflecting back to me?" The moment you become curious, you become empowered. Your relationships are feedback. Your finances are feedback. Even your physical body offers feedback. When you stop resisting what is and start interpreting it, everything becomes data for alignment. You don't need to fix the world. You need to read it. You need to see it as your creation, not out of guilt, but out of authorship. The moment you shift your signal, the mirror must change. It has no choice. Have you noticed the loop? The way certain struggles keep coming back? Different faces, different places, but the same core lesson. This is not failure. This is sacred precision. Life echoes your inner landscape, and when a part of you remains unshifted, the universe replays the pattern, not to punish, but to prompt transformation. Every echo is an opportunity, a second chance to see, to choose differently, to respond from awareness instead of habit. Until you shift internally, the external will remain the same. You cannot outrun a pattern you're still broadcasting. You cannot outgrow a belief you still hold sacred. The echo is not the enemy, it is the reminder. This is why healing feels circular, because it is. You revisit the same terrain, not because you're stuck, but because each time you return, you're equipped with more awareness. The echo is not an exact repeat. It is a spiral leading upward. Start tracking your echoes. What keeps showing up? What fear, limitation, or dynamic persists? Instead of resisting, observe. Say thank you, because life is patient. It will repeat until you're ready. And the moment you shift, fully, genuinely, at the level of identity, the echo ends. The pattern dissolves, and a new possibility emerges. The echo was never a curse. It was the compass pointing you home. What if you're still dreaming? The sky, the bills, the calendar, they all feel real. But so does a dream while you're in it. And just like in sleep, the waking world is shaped not by laws of stone, but by the laws of assumption, emotion, focus. In dreams, belief is instant creation. You expect to fly. you do. You fear a fall, you fall. The moment you realize you're dreaming, power returns. You become lucid. The same is true here. You are not bound by what is real. You are bound by what you believe is real. Lucid living is the art of choosing inside the dream. It's recognizing that your assumptions mold the experience, that every thought is a painter's stroke on the canvas of your day, that the dream only controls you when you forget you're dreaming. Begin practicing lucidity in life. Ask, what if I could rewrite this moment? Choose a new thought, embody a new feeling, expect a different outcome. Watch how the dream bends. The difference between sleep dreams and waking dreams is persistence. Waking life appears slower, more solid, but it's still a dream, just one with rules you agreed to. Change your agreements and the structure changes. You are not a character trapped in someone else's story. You are the dreamer, the architect, the narrator. And the moment you awaken within the dream, everything becomes possible. Beneath every principle you've heard, attraction, vibration, alignment, there is something more fundamental, a deeper law, a pattern so ancient, so precise, it holds every other law within it like nesting dolls. This is the eternal pattern. It is not a concept. It is the architecture of reality itself. You've felt it before, even if you haven't named it. The symmetry in nature, the way certain events mirror inner thoughts, the pull toward moments that feel scripted by something larger. The eternal pattern is the intelligence that makes synchronicity possible. It is not chance. It is choreography. Most teachings focus on techniques. Visualize this, think that, affirm this way. But all techniques are branches. The pattern is the root. You don't need to master a dozen laws. You need to align with the one that births them all. The eternal pattern is the design beneath existence. It governs how energy flows, how form arises, how lives intersect, how seasons turn, how desires manifest. It is the rhythm of creation, and it is not out there. It is within you. You were not dropped into this world at random. You emerged through it as part of it. You are made of the same intelligence that organizes stars and grows forests. You are not separate from the pattern. You are an extension of it, a fractal, a living branch of cosmic order. When your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs align with this pattern, manifestation becomes effortless. Not because you hacked the system, but because you became the system. The eternal pattern doesn't respond to effort. It responds to coherence. This is why some people seem to magnetize success without strain. They are not luckier. They are more aligned. Their inner world moves in rhythm with the greater design. And when you move in rhythm, the world dances with you. You cannot force the pattern, but you can feel it. It is the quiet pull toward something meaningful, the deep yes in your gut, the right thing at the right time. You know when you're in it. Life flows. Doors open, resistance fades. The eternal pattern is not reserved for mystics. It is not mystical. It is mechanical, like gravity, consistent, neutral, precise. When you drop into its current, you don't have to paddle so hard. The river carries you. To align with it, stop trying to control and start trying to listen. Feel where energy wants to go, where the truth pulls you, where life feels more alive. That is the pattern inviting you in. You are not here to dominate life. You are here to participate in its sacred symmetry. Control is a myth, a seductive one, but a myth nonetheless. The more you try to grip reality into shape, the more it slips through your fingers. That's because your role was never to force the pattern. It was to recognize it. You are not the sculptor chiseling form from chaos. You are the observer, the attuner, the interpreter of a living intelligence that is always arranging, always adjusting, always communicating. Your job is not to command the dance, but to find the rhythm and join it. This may feel like surrender, and it is, but not the surrender of defeat. The surrender of ego. The release of the need to make it happen in favor of the awareness that it is already happening. The pattern is in motion. The question is, are you watching? Pattern recognition is a spiritual art. It's the ability to trace meaning through what others call coincidence, to see repetition as revelation, to interpret delays as redirection, to feel that even mistakes are movements in a deeper design. Children do this naturally. They find shapes in clouds, hear messages in wind, sense moods in rooms. They feel the invisible threads. You did too, until logic taught you to ignore what couldn't be measured. But the pattern is not for the mind to dissect. It is for the soul to remember. You don't need psychic gifts to recognize the pattern. You need presence, attention, curiosity. When something recurs, ask why. When something stirs you, follow it. When something feels off, listen. These are all clues, invitations. As you develop this recognition, the pattern will seem to quicken. Synchronicities will increase. Guidance will become clearer. But it's not the world that changed. It's your awareness. You're finally seeing what was always there. The truth is, the pattern wants to be seen. It is always trying to communicate. The moment you decide to listen, it becomes unmistakable. You do not need to be in control. You only need to be in tune. Every interaction is a mirror, not of the world, but of you. The way people treat you, the things that trigger you, the patterns that repeat. These are not accidents. They are reflections. This does not mean others are off the hook. People have their own journeys, their own lessons. But for your purposes, what matters is what life is showing you through them. If you meet criticism everywhere, life may be showing you your inner judgment. If you attract love and generosity, life may be reflecting your worthiness. If betrayal keeps showing up, there may be a part of you that betrays your own boundaries. The outer world is a report card of your internal state. This is not a cause for blame. It's a call to awareness. You are not being punished. You are being informed. The mirror principle is powerful because it bypasses the ego. It strips away the illusion that everything out there is separate from you. Once you accept that life reflects you, the need for blame dissolves, and the opportunity for transformation begins. Think of the people in your life as teachers. Some teach through joy, some through friction, but all are assignments. The question isn't, why are they doing this? The question is, what part of me are they showing me? When you shift your inner world, the mirror cannot help but change. It must. That is the law. You are not fixing the reflection. You are shifting the source. Start treating every difficult encounter as a diagnostic, not to take abuse, but to see what the pattern is saying. Often, the thing you most resist in others is a trait you've denied in yourself. What you see is what you are ready to see. The world is your mirror, and the mirror is merciful. It will always reflect who you think you are until you choose to become something more. There is a guidance system within you that never lies. It doesn't speak in logic, but in feeling. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't argue, it knows. This is your intuition, the compass of your soul. Most people ignore it because it doesn't explain itself. It doesn't give you reasons, only resonance. You feel a pull, a resistance, a knowing, but without data, the mind dismisses it. And in doing so, it dismisses the very intelligence trying to lead you. Intuition is not emotion, it's deeper. Emotion is reactive. Intuition is receptive. It is the channel through which the eternal pattern speaks to you directly. When you follow it even blindly, paths appear. When you ignore it, even the obvious routes fall apart. Intuition will never steer you wrong, but it may steer you somewhere uncomfortable. Because it doesn't aim for your safety, it aims for your alignment. Start noticing how intuition speaks to you. Maybe it's a sensation in your chest, a quiet urge to pause, a name that keeps popping up, a sentence in a book that feels written just for you. These are not quirks, they are breadcrumbs. Your life does not require perfect planning, it requires perfect listening. The soul's compass doesn't show you the whole map. It shows you the next step. That's all you need. The more you follow, the louder it gets. The more you resist, the quieter it becomes. But it never leaves. It waits, patiently, lovingly, for you to return. Your intuition is your connection to the pattern. Trust it. It remembers the path even when you forget. This moment is a threshold. You are no longer a passive participant in life's theater. You are no longer asleep inside the story. You are waking up, and awareness is your initiation. It doesn't begin with some grand achievement. It begins with a shift, tiny but total, in how you see everything. You are not here to be shaped by circumstances. You are here to shape them, not through control, but through consciousness. The shift happens when you stop asking, "What will happen to me?" and start asking, "What am I creating now?" This is not metaphor. This is mechanics. Your awareness is the command center of your life. Every thought, every assumption, every emotional frequency becomes the blueprint for what shows up next. The journey ahead will ask more of you, not effort, but honesty. Radical, soul-level honesty about who you are being and what you are projecting. But it will also offer more flow, more peace, more alignment, because now you're playing the game from the inside. You are not here to chase outcomes. You are here to embody causes, to be the root, not the branch, the signal, not the static. Everything you need is already within you. You are not broken. You are blooming, and now you know. This is your invitation to step forward, not as a seeker, but as a creator. Welcome to your real life. What you desire isn't missing. It's just vibrating at a frequency you haven't aligned with yet. Like radio stations broadcasting around you, each possibility, every outcome, every breakthrough, every version of you exists now. But you can only hear the music you're tuned to. Frequency is the language of manifestation. Everything, people, money, health, opportunity, has a vibration. And that vibration is not accessed by hoping or wanting. It is accessed by matching. This is where most get it backwards. They believe reality must change first, and then they'll feel different. But the truth is the opposite. Your emotional and energetic state is the map. When you emit the same signal as the thing you want, the pattern makes the connection. It cannot do otherwise. To shift frequency is not to force anything. It is to embody the emotional signature of what you already desire. If you want peace, live from peace. If you want abundance, carry the energy of generosity and enoughness. The universe does not respond to your desire, it responds to your vibration. Think of a time you felt in flow. Things aligned, people appeared, events clicked. That wasn't luck, that was frequency alignment. You were tuned to receptivity, trust, and clarity, so reality had no choice but to echo it back. The challenge is maintaining frequency despite appearances. You must hold the vibration even when the outer world looks unchanged. Because frequency shifts precede evidence. The radio doesn't wait to play music until you believe the station exists. You tune in first. Start small. Choose a single outcome. Ask yourself, what does this feel like emotionally? Then create that feeling within yourself. Don't fake it, cultivate it, feed it, act from it. You are not pretending. You are broadcasting. Life organizes around the signals you send. Match the frequency, and the reality that lives there will find you. Assumptions are invisible decisions. You don't speak them aloud. You don't always notice them, but they are running everything. What you assume to be true becomes the script your reality follows, not because it's fair, but because it's law. Assumptions override effort. You can work tirelessly toward a goal, but if you assume it won't happen or that it will be difficult, it must obey that command. Reality does not listen to your plans. It listens to your expectations. Assumption is not wishful thinking. It's not surface-level optimism. It's a baseline belief so rooted that it no longer feels like a thought. It feels like fact, and that feeling creates form. This is why people with unshakable confidence succeed more often, not because they're better, but because they assume success. They walk into the room already accepted. They start the project already accomplished. That assumption speaks louder than any resume. Your assumptions are always being proven right, not because the universe is validating your ego, but because it must reflect what you expect. Your life is not showing you truth. It's showing you your assumptions, so change them. Start with one area. Replace "I'm not good with money" with "money flows with ease." Don't wait to believe it, assume it. Live as if it were already true. The belief will catch up. You're not faking it, you're tuning it. Reality doesn't test you, it reflects you. And assumption is the frequency it listens to most. You can't attract what you haven't become. The universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to who you are. Your identity is not a label, it's a vibration, and everything you experience is reflecting it. This is the missing piece in most attempts at transformation. People try to achieve different results while staying the same person, but outcomes don't shift until identity does. You don't get a new life and then become someone new. You become someone new, and the new life arrives as a match. Your identity is the baseline code running in the background. It determines how you interpret events, how you receive love, how you spend money, how you treat yourself. It colors your entire perception, and it defines what the pattern can mirror back to you. If you carry the identity of someone who always struggles, then even gifts will slip through your fingers. If you shift to the identity of someone who always finds a way, life must reorganize to reflect that. Not eventually, immediately. This is not about pretending, it's about aligning. Ask yourself, who is the version of me who already has this? Then start showing up as that now, not all at once, not perfectly, but intentionally. What do they believe? How do they talk to themselves? What do they tolerate? What do they expect? Identity is not fixed. It's chosen. It's rehearsed. It's claimed. Shift who you are, and what you have must follow. Time is not a line. It's a field. Every version of you already exists somewhere in that field. Every failure, every victory, every possibility. You don't move toward them by waiting. You access them by alignment. Timeline leaping is the art of collapsing time. It's not about rushing, it's about resonance. When you match the emotional and energetic frequencies of a future reality, that timeline becomes your present. Life reorganizes to deliver the outcome you've already chosen. You've done this before without realizing it. Remember a time when something came together faster than you thought possible? That wasn't coincidence. That was alignment. Your mind thinks in steps. Your energy thinks in outcomes. And energy is faster. To leap timelines, stop living from where you are. Start living from where you're going. Speak as that version of you. Dress like them. Decide like them. Not in fantasy, but in faith. The current version of you is not climbing to success. It's tuning into it. Every time you act from your future self, you shift tracks. Every time you feel the certainty of what's coming, you bend time. The shift may feel subtle, but the results won't be. You're not here to crawl toward your dream. You're here to meet it halfway. The version of you who already lives it is waiting. Step in. You don't have to wait for life to change before you feel different. The very act of claiming a new truth causes reality to respond. Time doesn't create transformation. Truth does. Most people delay their freedom. When the job comes, I'll feel secure. When I'm loved, I'll feel worthy. But the universe doesn't work that way. It mirrors now, and when you stand in a truth now, reality must adjust to catch up. This is why instant shifts are possible. Not because you fixed everything, but because you declared something deeper than your circumstances. You said, I am me, and the pattern rearranged accordingly. The moment you know you are enough, doors open. The moment you stop chasing love and start being love, people notice. The moment you decide fully that abundance is natural, life begins to agree. Truth bends time, it dissolves delay, because reality can only argue with your indecision. Once your truth becomes non-negotiable, your outer world aligns to match. What truth have you been postponing? What identity have you been saving for later? Stop waiting. Claim it now, not in desperation, in clarity. Time is not holding you back, hesitation is. And the moment you stop deferring your truth, the pattern stops deferring your breakthrough. You are not pretending, you are rehearsing. When you live as if something is already true, you are not faking a reality. You are broadcasting it into existence. Living as if is not a trick. It is a technology. It is a way of shifting your identity and your vibration to meet the outcome before the outcome arrives. Most people delay embodiment. They wait for evidence before permission. They think, once I'm successful, I'll feel successful. But the pattern doesn't work that way. Feeling creates the evidence. The universe doesn't respond to your desire. It responds to your decision. When you live as if you are already who you choose to be, you send out a signal. That signal becomes a frequency. And that frequency starts pulling everything into alignment with your new truth. You stop waiting and start activating. This is not about delusion. You're not ignoring reality. You're replacing it. You're choosing to act from the future instead of being trapped in the past. And every time you take a step from that place of belief, you reinforce the bridge to the version of life that matches. The key is consistency. One moment of pretending won't shift the field, but sustained embodiment will. Ask yourself, if it were already done, how would I walk into this room? How would I speak? What would I expect? Then act from there. You are not forcing change, you are matching it. And the more congruent your inner and outer actions become, the more quickly reality must follow. To live as if is not to beg. It is to declare. It is to say, I am this now, and let the universe catch up. The more real you make it inside, the faster it becomes real outside. Your life is not one continuous road. It is a branching tree. Every moment offers doorways. Every choice activates a new timeline. You are not moving through one future. You are selecting from infinite ones. Choice is not just preference. It is alignment. Each decision you make, what to think, how to react, who to become, tunes your vibration to a different outcome. The world you live in today is not the only one that could have existed. It's simply the one your past choices called forth. This is why seemingly small decisions have massive ripple effects. Because the energy behind the choice, not just the action but the intention, acts like a command. This is who I am now, you declare, and the universe responds. Every morning, you stand at a portal. Will you choose fear or faith? Will you embody the old self or the new one? Will you react to the past or respond from possibility? These are not philosophical questions. They are the steering wheel of your future. There are no neutral choices. Each one reinforces a version of you. The more consistently you choose the self who aligns with your highest vision, the more stabilized that version becomes. Eventually, it's not a choice. It's your identity. And the beauty of this law is that at any moment, you can pivot. You can walk through a new door. No matter how long you've lived on a certain path, a single aligned choice can open a new world. You're not waiting for destiny. You're shaping it with every decision. Choose with awareness. Each choice is a portal. Make it count. Letting go is not giving up. It's leveling up. In the quantum field, resistance creates turbulence. Control creates interference. The more you grasp, the more you block. Surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the highest act of trust in the pattern that organizes all things. To surrender is to stop forcing the river to flow your way and realize it's already heading exactly where you need to go. It doesn't mean you do nothing. It means you do the right things from the right energy. Effort fueled by fear only reinforces scarcity, but aligned action, backed by surrender, opens every door. Most people try to manifest by willpower. They push, fix, strategize, overthink, but the quantum field responds to clarity, not control. Surrender says, I know it's done. I don't need to chase. I am already it. And from that certainty, reality bends. This doesn't mean passivity. It means precision. Surrender sharpens your focus. You know what's yours. You stop wasting energy on proving, pleasing, or panicking. You align, you release, you receive. Try to take one area of life you've been gripping tightly. Now let it go. Not in resignation, but in remembrance. Remember who you are. Remember what you are connected to. Remember that the pattern is not against you. It is you. When you release the outcome arrives faster. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally stepped into resonance. Letting go is not falling back. It's rising up. Your mind is not a camera. It's a filter. You do not see life as it is. You see it as you are trained to expect it. Expectations are not passive thoughts. They are settings on your lens. They determine what enters your awareness, how you interpret it, and what gets reinforced. If you expect disappointment, you'll overlook blessings. If you expect magic, you'll spot miracles in mundane moments. Your brain literally deletes anything that contradicts your core expectations. It doesn't want to be wrong. It wants to be right. So it gathers proof for what you already assume. This is why it's so hard to change your story without changing your expectation. If deep down you believe things always fall apart, then even moments of joy will feel suspicious. If you believe success is hard, you'll unconsciously block ease. Your expectation sets the ceiling. But here's the breakthrough. Expectations can be chosen. They can be upgraded. You can train your mind to expect better, not from arrogance, but from alignment. Start by observing. What do you expect when your phone rings, when you walk into a room, when you open your inbox? These micro moments reveal your frequency. Then choose again. Create new defaults. Expect kindness. Expect clarity. Expect everything to work out even when you can't see how. The field of life doesn't deliver based on hope. It delivers based on expectation. Set yours like a thermostat, and life will match the temperature. Emotions aren't just feelings, they're frequencies. And like a song stuck on repeat, your dominant emotional state writes the script for what happens next. You can think all the right thoughts, say all the right affirmations, but if your underlying emotional current is fear, anxiety, or resentment, that's the signal you're broadcasting. That's the code reality reads, and it builds accordingly. Your emotional baseline is your algorithm. It predicts what shows up in your relationships, your health, your bank account, not because life is punishing you, but because it is matching you. Think of your life like a playlist. If you wake up tuned to scarcity, you'll only hear songs of not enough. If you shift to gratitude, the playlist changes. Opportunities sound different. People respond differently. You didn't change the world. You changed your tune. Most people try to change their lives by rearranging the outside. But the smarter move is to update the emotional algorithm. Decide what you want to feel more of, and start building your day around that. Protect it, practice it, prioritize it. Your future is hiding in your current frequency. Read your emotions like code. What are they telling you about what you're set to receive? If you don't like the projection, shift the pattern. Don't wait for joy, create it. Don't wait for peace, choose it. Not because the world is perfect, but because your vibration shapes what you see. Change the code, change the outcome. The words you speak, especially to yourself, are not commentary. They are commands. Each phrase, each declaration, each thought-turned sentence carries weight. It doesn't just describe your life, it directs it. Your self-talk is not background noise, it is spell casting. You have been casting spells your whole life. You say, I'm terrible at this, and the pattern says, understood. You sigh, Nothing ever works out for me. And the pattern replies, as you wish. It isn't punishing you, it's listening, obeying, aligning with the frequencies you keep repeating. Words are the tools through which consciousness carves reality. And your inner monologue is a 24/7 construction site. Whether you're aware of it or not, your phrases are laying bricks in the architecture of your experience. Consider how often you dismiss yourself with sarcasm or self-deprecation. You laugh it off, but your subconscious doesn't. It doesn't know you're joking. It hears a spell, and if you say it often enough, it becomes law. But the reverse is just as powerful. I always figure it out. Something amazing is on its way. This is working out better than I imagined. These aren't fluffy affirmations, they are sacred commands. Spoken from belief, they reshape timelines. Your life begins to follow the path of your most repeated sentences, because the words you use tell your body what to feel, your mind what to expect, and the universe what to build. To change your life, change your language. Don't wait until things shift to speak differently. Speak differently to shift them. Guard your words like sacred tools. Use them intentionally. Speak from the version of you who already knows it's done. You're not casting spells in some fantasy sense. You're doing it in the truest way, through repetition, emotion, and focus. Every time you talk about yourself, you're telling the pattern who you believe you are. Choose your words like seeds, because they always grow. Imagination isn't childish, it's sacred. It is not escapism, it is instruction. Every image you entertain becomes a sketch on the blueprint of reality. The pattern doesn't just respond to words or actions, it responds to pictures. Your subconscious mind doesn't speak English, it speaks image, feeling, atmosphere. Every time you visualize a scene, whether of fear or desire, you're transmitting instructions into the field. And that field, like a divine architect, begins laying foundations. Most people use imagination unconsciously. They imagine the worst-case scenario, they rehearse rejection, they picture disaster, and then they wonder why life feels heavy, threatening, or limited. What you hold consistently in your inner world becomes the mold for your outer one. This isn't about fantasy. This is about focus. Visualization is not pretending. It is practicing. It is stepping into a scene before it arrives. So when it does, it finds you aligned and ready. Athletes use it. Performers use it. Visionaries use it. Not because it's mystical, but because it works. When the mind rehearses success, the body follows. When you walk yourself through the feeling of the desired outcome, the pattern recognizes it as a familiar frequency and responds. You don't have to visualize for hours. A few clear moments soaked in emotion can change everything. See it, feel it, believe it. Then let it go, not with doubt, but with trust. The clearer the image, the stronger the instruction. Your imagination is not asking for something, it's preparing for it. Transformation doesn't happen in grand moments. It happens in the quiet, repeated decisions you make each day. Rituals are not about superstition. They are about structure. They are the scaffolding that supports spiritual alignment. A conscious ritual is any practice you infuse with presence and purpose. It doesn't have to look spiritual. Drinking tea in silence, journaling at dawn, walking with intention. These are not tasks. They are invitations. Each ritual is a doorway back to yourself. Most people start the day in reaction. Phone, news, stress. They enter the world without anchoring, and then they wonder why they feel fragmented. But with even 5 minutes of conscious practice, you signal to the universe that you are a participant, not just a passenger. Create morning rituals that tune your frequency, not out of duty, but devotion. Write down what you're grateful for. Speak your intentions aloud. Sit in stillness. Feel who you want to be that day. Don't wait for alignment. Practice it. Evening rituals matter too. They reset your vibration. Reflect on your wins. Forgive yourself. Release any energy that doesn't belong to you. You are not closing a day, you're preparing the field for the next one. Rituals are sacred containers. They are not about performance, they are about permission. They give you permission to reconnect, to listen, to remember. Don't complicate it. Start where you are. Choose one ritual and do it with full attention. The magic is not in what you do, it's in how you do it. A life filled with conscious rituals becomes a life lived in rhythm with the pattern. Staying in alignment is easy when life is quiet. But what about when it's not? When people misunderstand you? When your plan hits resistance? When old patterns try to re-enter the room? This is where vibrational integrity is born. Vibrational integrity is not about perfection. It's about commitment. It's the choice to stay loyal to your highest frequency, even when the world offers you every excuse not to. It's knowing who you are and refusing to return to who you're not. The test of alignment is not when things go right, it's when they don't. When you can still respond from truth, from peace, from presence. That is mastery. That is the frequency that bends time. Most people get knocked out of alignment by the smallest trigger, a look, a bill, a headline, and they spiral, not because the event was so powerful, but because their center was unguarded. To keep vibrational integrity, you must become more interested in how you feel than in being right. You must want peace more than you want validation, and you must practice responding instead of reacting. This doesn't mean suppressing emotion. It means honoring it without becoming it. It means noticing the temptation to regress and choosing otherwise. The stronger your alignment, the less the world can throw you off. You become steady, not because life is easier, but because your frequency is non-negotiable. Let the world move. You stay anchored. Power isn't always loud. It isn't always forceful. In fact, the most effective power is often the softest. Non-resistance is not passivity. It is precision. It is the power that arises when you stop pushing and start allowing. When you resist what is, you create friction. You block flow. You tell the pattern, I do not trust you. And the pattern, obedient as always, mirrors that resistance with more to resist. But when you yield, when you stop trying to make life fit your narrow expectations, you create space for something higher to emerge. Non-resistance is the art of relaxing into reality without giving up on possibility. It doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. It means not energizing conflict. It doesn't mean you don't act. It means you act from clarity, not chaos. Think of water. It moves through rock by yielding, not by battling. It adapts. It flows. And in time, it shapes mountains. That's real influence. You become magnetic when you stop needing to control. You become powerful when you stop reacting. Non-resistance is not weakness. It's the highest form of strength because it's grounded in truth, not ego. Practice it. Notice where you tense, where you argue with life. Then soften. Breathe. Ask, what if this is working for me? And let that perspective guide your next step. When you release resistance, life rushes to meet you. Intention is not a wish. It is not a passive preference or a vague idea. Intention is structured energy, thought fused with feeling, wrapped in clarity, pointed like an arrow. It is the energetic command that bends the fabric of time and matter toward itself. It is what bridges the unseen and the seen. When a thought is clear but emotionally flat, it drifts. It has form but no weight. When a feeling is intense but unfocused, it burns out like a spark with no direction. But when thought and feeling unite, when the image is sharp and the emotion is alive, intention becomes magnetic. Time rearranges, matter responds. The pattern responds not to words, but to coherence. And coherence means everything within you is aligned. Your mind believes it, your heart feels it, your body moves from it. When this happens, your signal is pure. There is no static. There is no contradiction, just a clean frequency that commands the field. This is why some intentions manifest instantly, while others lag for years. The delay is not in the universe, it's in your clarity. The strength of an intention is not in how badly you want something, but in how deeply you embody it. Want to test this? Set a simple intention right now, something small but specific. A symbol, a gesture, a message. Picture it clearly. Feel what it would mean if it appeared. Let your entire being vibrate as though it has already occurred. Then release it, not from doubt, but from trust. Intention is a declaration of order, and the pattern must mirror it. When you set intention with full awareness, you are no longer reacting to reality. You are directing it. It's not magic, it's physics. Frequency first, form follows. Your environment is not neutral. It is a living amplifier of your state of being. The spaces you inhabit, the people you engage with, the content you consume, all of it either reinforces your frequency or pulls you out of it. You may have a clear vision, you may have powerful rituals, but if you're bathing in noise, negativity, and misaligned energy all day, your vibration will wobble. You'll slip back into old patterns without realizing why. The cause? Environment. Everything carries a field. Rooms, objects, voices, screens. When you enter a space, you're not just entering architecture, you're entering atmosphere. And your nervous system, your subconscious, your energetic body, they all respond. This is why certain places make you feel expansive and others make you shrink. Why a conversation with one person leaves you inspired and another leaves you drained. Frequency is contagious, and you must curate your surroundings like a sacred garden. Begin with your physical space. What in your home matches the future you're aligning with? What needs to go? Clutter is not just visual, it's vibrational. Your space should speak your vision back to you. Now look at your digital space. What messages are you receiving daily? Who are you following, listening to, watching? Every input is a vote for your current reality. Be intentional. Finally, consider your relationships. Are they mirrors of who you were or reflections of who you are becoming? You don't need to cut everyone off, but you must choose who gets front row seats to your energy. Your environment is not passive, it is magnetic. Align it and everything accelerates. You chose more than you remember. The people, the patterns, even the challenges, they were not assigned at random. They were agreements, soul contracts, invitations you accepted before you arrived, designed to shape you, stretch you, awaken you. But these contracts are not life sentences, they are lessons. And once learned, you can release them. You have free will, not just to react, but to rewrite. Destiny is not fixed. It is a draft, and your consciousness is the pen. Many people stay stuck in cycles, believing this is just who I am or this is my karma, but that's not truth. It's resignation. The soul signs contracts to evolve, not to suffer, and evolution requires recognition. The moment you see the pattern clearly, the grip begins to loosen. You may have chosen certain roles, caretaker, underdog, rebel, healer, but those roles are not your essence. They are vehicles. Once they've served their purpose, it is your job to release them and step into the next version of self. Creative authority begins when you realize you're no longer bound by unconscious agreements. You can declare a new identity. You can select a new storyline. You can end the old chapter with a single conscious choice. To do this, ask, what pattern keeps repeating? What role do I no longer want to play? Then say aloud, I release this contract. I choose a new experience. Do it with sincerity, and the field will rearrange. Destiny bends to decision. Soul agreements dissolve in awareness. You're not just here to learn, you're here to lead. You're not a character bound to fate. You're the co-creator of what comes next. Manifestation doesn't begin when something appears. It begins with a shift in frequency, often subtle, often invisible, always first. Energetic self-awareness is the ability to catch that shift early, before the misalignment becomes a crisis, before the pattern hardens into form. It is the art of tuning in before life needs to scream. Most people wait for signs, a breakup, a breakdown, a diagnosis, before they adjust. But by then, the frequency has already become form. The goal is to feel the imbalance as it starts, not when it erupts. You do this by listening to your body, to your breath, to the quality of your thoughts. Do they feel light or heavy? Expansive or constricted? Are you creating from peace or proving from fear? Energy speaks before events do. A recurring tension in your chest, a low-level resentment, a sudden apathy. These are not nuisances, they are messengers. Begin tracking your vibration like a scientist. Ask daily, what am I broadcasting right now? Not to judge, but to redirect. Just like a plane makes micro-adjustments mid-flight, you can correct course moment by moment. You don't need to obsess, you need to observe. And once you see the pattern, you can choose again. Mastery isn't avoiding all turbulence, it's catching the drift before you crash. There is a self behind the self, a stillness beneath the storm, a consciousness that watches without judgment, without fear, without the need to control. This is the eternal witness, and it is always available. Most people live inside their emotions, inside their stories. They become the thought, the fear, the trigger. But the moment you step back, not to escape, but to observe, you change everything. Observation is transformation, because what you witness, you disarm. The eternal witness doesn't argue with reality. It watches, and in that watching, something shifts. You gain space, and in that space, you gain choice. This doesn't mean detachment, it means clarity. You still feel, but you don't drown. You still think, but you don't spiral. You hold your experience with awareness, not identity. To activate the witness, practice pausing, mid-conversation, mid-thought, mid-reaction. Say inwardly, I see this. That's all. The moment you say it, you are not it. You are something deeper. As the witness strengthens, your life changes. Reactions lose power. Triggers dissolve. Drama fades because you are no longer playing every role. You're sitting in the director's chair. The eternal witness is not a concept. It is your essence. And when you live from that place, everything softens, sharpens, and aligns. You stop being the storm. You become the sky. Wealth is not something you chase. It is something you allow. It is not an external condition. It is an internal frequency. The pattern of abundance does not respond to effort alone. It responds to alignment, and that alignment begins with safety and worth. If you hold fear around money, if it feels like something unstable, elusive, or dangerous, you will unconsciously repel it, even while trying to attract it. If you do not feel safe having money, you won't keep it. If you do not feel worthy of wealth, you won't receive it. Because the pattern cannot deliver what your frequency contradicts. Wealth isn't a number, it's a state of permission. It's the felt sense of, I am supported, I am valuable, I am free to receive. When those feelings are present, money flows, not as a reward, but as a response. This is why some people seem to magnetize opportunities without effort. They don't have more talent, they have more resonance. They embody a reality where wealth is normal, and the field mirrors that truth. To align with wealth, begin not with affirmations, but with embodiment. Ask, how would I feel if I were already supported? Then practice feeling that now, not someday, now. Let it show up in how you breathe, how you walk, how you speak to yourself. Safety is key. If money feels unsafe, you will self-sabotage. So create an inner world where wealth is welcome, where receiving does not trigger guilt, where growth does not equal risk. Worth is the anchor. You don't earn wealth through proving. You allow it through knowing. Knowing that your existence is enough, that your value is intrinsic, that the pattern would not place desires in your heart without also designing a path for them. Wealth does not come from need. It comes from presence. You don't get rich to feel free. You feel free to get rich. Live as if wealth is already within you, because it is. The outer flow follows the inner yes. No one enters your life by accident. Every connection, whether uplifting or uncomfortable, is a mirror, a reflection of your current frequency, beliefs, and identity. Relationships don't just happen to you, they happen through you. Your friends, your partners, your co-workers, even your critics are showing you something. Sometimes they reflect your light, sometimes they expose your shadows, but always they are responding to your inner state. If you feel unseen, ask where you've been hiding yourself. If you attract chaos, examine the energy you've normalized. If you find yourself judged, look at how you judge others or yourself. The people in your life aren't here to complete you. They're here to reveal you, to show you where you've healed and where you've abandoned yourself. This is why the same patterns show up with different faces, because they're waiting for your recognition. When you shift your identity, your relationships must shift too. You might find people fading away, not because something's wrong, but because you're no longer compatible. You may feel lonely for a time. That's not emptiness. That's recalibration. The clearer your self-concept becomes, the more your outer world aligns. You start attracting those who reflect your growth, not your wounds. You stop settling for echoes of old pain. You start choosing mirrors that reflect your wholeness. This doesn't mean you cut everyone off. It means you relate from awareness. You stop playing roles. You stop seeking validation. You bring your full self and let others meet you or move on. Relationship dynamics are feedback loops. Change the signal and the mirror changes. Elevate your self-worth and the people who match that worth will appear. The world is not separate from you, and neither are the people in it. Your body is not a separate system. It is an extension of your consciousness. Every cell listens to your thoughts. Every organ responds to your emotions. Your physical form is not independent of your energy. It is a mirror of it. Health, then, is not just the absence of illness. It is the presence of harmony. It is what happens when your inner world, your beliefs, your feelings, your attention, is in alignment with your natural state of vitality. Pain is not punishment. It is communication. Fatigue, tension, symptoms, they are messages, not enemies. They tell you when you're out of sync. They point you toward what needs your love, not your fear. You've been taught to fix the body without listening to it, to treat symptoms without addressing causes. But true healing begins with recognition, with asking, what is this trying to show me, rather than, how do I make this stop? Energy precedes form. Dis-ease begins as dissonance, a long-standing emotional conflict, a belief in powerlessness, a pattern of suppression. When the frequency is restored, the body follows. This does not mean you ignore medical care. It means you complement it with awareness. You address the root, not just the branch. You treat the being, not just the body. Healing accelerates when you return to wholeness, when you forgive yourself, when you honor your needs, when you stop identifying with the wound. The body is not broken. It is brilliant. It is doing its best to follow your energetic lead. Give it new instructions. Speak love. Choose rest. Visualize health as your normal. Feel ease in your bones. Let your vibration become the medicine. Harmony isn't forced, it's remembered, and your body is always listening. You're not here to chase purpose, you're here to recognize it. Purpose is not a job title, it's not a 5-step plan. It's a pattern, one that has been weaving through your life since the beginning, whispering through what excites you, what angers you, what breaks your heart open. Purpose is what calls you again and again, even when you try to ignore it. It's the themes that won't leave you alone, the stories you keep telling, the truths you can't unsee. You don't find your purpose by thinking harder, you find it by noticing. What connects your experiences? What pattern keeps appearing? What message keeps choosing you to carry it? Your purpose is not outside you. It's encoded into your very presence. You are the vessel. You are the voice. And when you stop searching and start listening, it becomes clear. Often, the clues are hidden in your wounds. The pain you endured gives you empathy. The silence you survived makes you a speaker. The injustice you witnessed turns you into a bridge. Nothing is wasted. Everything is part of the map. Purpose isn't something you earn. It's something you align with. And the more you live authentically, the louder it gets. You don't need permission. You need presence. Live your life like it matters, because it does. The pattern needs your eyes, your hands, your voice. It wants to be expressed through you in a way no one else can offer. Purpose isn't a career, it's a calling. And you've been hearing it all along. There are moments when time bends, when hesitation ends, when clarity pierces through the fog and everything changes. These are the moments of decision, not the kind you weigh and debate endlessly, but the kind you feel in your bones, pure, final, energetic. A real decision is not a thought, it's a frequency. It carries weight. It collapses all other options. The moment you decide, the pattern responds, not because of what you'll do next, but because of who you became in that instant. Indecision keeps doors open, but life doesn't flow through open doors. It flows through committed ones. The universe does not build on maybe. It builds on yes. You've been taught to analyze, to wait for signs, to look for guarantees. But the truth is, decisions don't wait for signs. They create them. They shift timelines. They summon resources. They make room for synchronicity. The energy behind your choice is more important than the choice itself. Decide from fear and you invite resistance. Decide from alignment and the path clears. To choose is to command. It's to say, this is who I am now, and mean it. It's to stop negotiating with your past and start partnering with your future. Start with one area of your life where you've been wobbling. Decide, not just with words, but with energy. And watch what happens. Power begins the moment you choose. The universe moves in cycles. The moon waxes and wanes. Tides rise and fall. Trees bloom, release, sleep, and bloom again. Nothing is linear. Nothing is permanent. Everything flows in rhythm. And you are no exception. Your life follows the same code. Times of growth, times of stillness, times of letting go, times of renewal. But modern life teaches you to push through, to stay productive, to ignore the natural ebb in favor of endless flow. This resistance to rhythm is the root of burnout, confusion, and misalignment. You were not meant to bloom all year. You were meant to breathe. When you learn to honor your personal seasons, your cycles of inspiration, your waves of clarity and rest, you move into harmony with the pattern. You stop forcing progress and start flowing with timing. And timing is everything. There is a time for action and a time for allowing, a time to speak and a time to listen, a time to build and a time to dismantle. The wisdom is in knowing which is which. If something isn't moving forward, it doesn't always mean you're blocked. It may mean you're in winter, you're incubating, you're becoming. Growth is still happening, even when it's invisible. Start tuning into your internal rhythms. Notice when your energy expands and when it contracts. Notice when your body craves movement and when it longs for stillness. These are not distractions from your path. They are your path. The more you align with the cycles, the more efficient you become, not because you're doing more, but because you're moving in right timing. The pattern rewards rhythm. Life is not a straight line, it's a spiral. Trust the return, trust the pause, trust the wave, because within every cycle, something sacred is being rewritten. Struggle feels noble. It's been glorified for centuries. Work harder, push through, prove your worth. But struggle is not a requirement of transformation. It is the signal that you are out of sync. When you're aligned, energy flows, ideas arrive, support appears. You still take action, but it feels guided, not forced. When you're misaligned, everything becomes heavier. Doors stay shut, friction builds, and yet you push harder, thinking this is how success is earned. But struggle isn't proof of progress. It's proof of resistance. The pattern is not built on punishment. It does not reward pain. It rewards presence. And presence means tuning into where energy wants to go, not where your ego insists it must. This doesn't mean you never face challenge, but the feeling is different. Challenge inside alignment feels like stretching. Struggle inside resistance feels like suffocation. One empowers, the other drains. Ask yourself, where am I forcing something that no longer fits? Where am I holding on out of fear? Where am I ignoring flow in favor of control? Let go of the idea that things must be hard to be meaningful. Let go of the identity that sees value in suffering. Your worth is not measured by your exhaustion. There is no virtue in drowning. Ease is not laziness. It is intelligence. It is trust in the pattern. And trust creates momentum faster than struggle ever will. When you release the need to struggle, you return to your natural state. Aligned, receptive, magnetic. The illusion fades, the flow begins. Your dreams are not random. They are not the brain's leftovers. They are portals, doorways to parallel timelines, messages from the subconscious, and whispers from the field of infinite potential. When you dream, your conscious filters dissolve. The walls of logic come down, and you enter the realm where time bends, symbols speak, and emotion becomes form. This is not fantasy. This is consciousness untethered. In dreams, you often encounter alternate versions of yourself. Some thriving, some wounded, some navigating paths you've yet to walk. These are not illusions. They are echoes of timelines you are near, possibilities you are energetically close to. Sometimes a dream is a rehearsal, sometimes a warning, sometimes an invitation. Begin treating your dreams as sacred messages, not all literal, but all meaningful. Keep a journal. Record what lingers when you wake, what felt vivid, what was the emotional tone, what symbols repeated. Over time, patterns emerge. Your dreams begin to guide. You start to see the hidden thread between sleep and waking life. A dream about losing control may reflect an invitation to release fear. A dream of flying may show you where your power is ready to rise. You don't have to interpret everything. Just listen. Just honor the experience as real, even if you can't explain it. Before sleep, set an intention. Ask for clarity. Ask to be shown the next step, the blockage, the truth you've missed. The dream world responds to conscious request. Sleep is not the end of the day. It is the entry point to the deeper self. And the more you honor that space, the more guidance you'll bring back from it. There is a way to move that doesn't exhaust you, a way to act that doesn't drain you, a way to accomplish that doesn't require burnout. That way begins not with effort, but with stillness. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of awareness. It is the internal alignment that allows action to be clean, clear, and potent. Most people live in reverse. They do to feel worthy. They act to feel secure. They achieve to feel valid. This is being from doing, trying to earn identity through performance. But true power flows the other way. You begin with being. You root into who you are, into what's true. From that stillness, action arises. Not frantic, not reactive, but inspired. This is the sacred balance. Stillness at your core, movement on the surface. It looks like flow. It feels like grace. Because you're not chasing outcomes, you're expressing presence. Try it. Before your next decision or task, pause. Feel your breath. Remember your intention. Then move. Not to fix, not to prove, but to create. Let the action be an extension of your being. Stillness in action is the key to sustainability. It's how you do more with less, how you stay in alignment while engaging the world. It's not laziness, it's mastery. Stillness is not about standing still, it's about moving from your center. And when you do, life moves with you. You've felt it before, the moment that feels like a memory but hasn't happened yet. The flash of an idea that later comes true. the pull toward something you can't explain. These are not coincidences, they are echoes, messages from timelines calling your attention. Premonitions are not fixed prophecies, they are instructions, signals from the field of possibility offering you glimpses of what's forming or what could form based on your current trajectory. The future is not a place you're heading, it's a field you're tuning into. And when you're quiet enough, open enough, the signal gets through. You may dismiss these moments as imagination, but the pattern uses intuition, dreams, and symbols to prepare you, to offer choice points, to say, if you keep going this way, here's what awaits. Or, this is what's available if you shift. When a premonition arrives, don't fear it. Don't overanalyze it. Feel it. Ask, what is this guiding me to do or not do? Is it inviting action, caution, trust? You don't have to know the whole picture. You only have to respond to the nudge. The future is fluid. Your choices shape it. Premonitions are not set in stone. They are brushstrokes on a canvas that is still wet. Honor them. Journal them. Watch for confirmation. The more you listen, the more you'll receive. And over time, your life begins to feel less random, more orchestrated, because you're no longer reacting. You're co-creating. You're not being warned. You're being empowered. The future whispers before it knocks. There is a hidden gate between scarcity and abundance, and it is not guarded by more striving. It is guarded by enough. Most people delay satisfaction, convinced that joy must wait until the dream arrives. They believe that fulfillment is a future condition, that enough is something they'll feel once they achieve a goal, earn a number, meet the person, cross the finish line. But enough isn't the end of the journey. It's the doorway to the next chapter. The pattern responds to frequency, and the frequency of enough carries no neediness, no grasping, no lack. It is calm, grateful, receptive. It says, I am already full. And from that fullness, more flows, not as validation, but as overflow. If you vibrate with scarcity, even if you call it ambition, what you attract will match that. Not more, but struggle. Not expansion, but delay. The universe does not reward the frequency of emptiness. It responds to the certainty of wholeness. Enough is not complacency. It is power. It is the moment you say, I already am, I already have, I already can. From that place, your desires lose desperation. They become preferences, not pleas. And preferences are magnetic. To cross the threshold of enough, begin with gratitude, not for what might come, but for what already is. See it, feel it, own it. Let your contentment become the signal, not to stop growing, but to grow without strain. Overflow begins where enough is recognized. The pattern is clear. When you stop needing more, more arrives. Time is not a straight path from point A to point B. It only appears that way when viewed through the mind. In truth, time moves like energy does, cyclically, rhythmically, spiraling through moments in memory, echoing until understood. The belief in linear time is one of the greatest illusions keeping you stuck. It convinces you that growth must be sequential, that healing must be slow, that success must take years. It puts your desires on a distant horizon and tells you to wait. But the pattern doesn't operate on clocks. It operates on frequency. And the moment your energy matches a new outcome, you collapse the time it would have taken. You step into the spiral, into the place where past, present, and future are all accessible now. This is why you revisit the same lessons. It's not regression, it's orbit. Each return brings deeper awareness. Each loop holds new clarity. You are not moving backward, you're spiraling upward. To break free of the tyranny of time, stop saying it's too late. Stop measuring your worth by what you've accomplished by a certain age. Start asking, what am I ready to hold now? Because readiness is what determines reality. The spiral also means you can receive something immediately that once felt far away. If you align with the frequency now, you don't have to wait. Time is not your master, it is your medium. Let the spiral guide you. It knows how to bring everything back around, right on time. You are not dropped randomly into this life. You are not a generic soul playing out a generic script. You are coded, precisely, purposefully, with patterns that are yours alone. Your name in the pattern is your essence signature. It's the combination of your gifts, your perspective, your sensitivities, your rhythm. It's the subtle way you interpret the world, the things only you notice, the ideas that chase you even when you try to ignore them. There is a reason you care about the things you do, a reason certain topics ignite your spirit while others leave you numb. These are not accidents. They are instructions. Encoded within your fascinations are clues to your path. The pattern speaks differently through each person because it must. Diversity is not an error, it's the intelligence of expansion, and your version of that intelligence is irreplaceable. Stop comparing your path to others. They are not coded like you. What works for them may never work for you. Because you are not meant to follow, you are meant to translate. To hear your name in the pattern, you must listen to what lights you up. What feels sacred, what feels like home. Follow it, trust it, build with it. You are not here to fit in, you are here to resonate. And when you do, the pattern sings in harmony. You are not random, you are remembered. The pattern knows your name, and it's waiting for you to speak it. Pain is not the enemy. Loss is not failure. Darkness is not the end. These are not punishments, they are corrections. Pattern shifts, cosmic recalibrations designed not to break you, but to realign you. You came here with free will, and with that freedom, you are allowed to wander, forget, drift. But the pattern is patient, and when you veer too far, it calls you back, not always gently, but always with purpose. Darkness enters when light has been ignored too long. It strips away the distractions, the illusions, the identities that are too small for your soul. It leaves you bare but not empty. It leaves you ready. The deepest pain often marks the point where you were no longer willing to live misaligned. It cracks the shell of who you thought you were, so who you really are can emerge. This is why some of the most awakened souls carry the deepest scars. They were initiated. They were refined, not because they were special, but because they were paying attention. Darkness teaches you to feel again, to see again, to prioritize truth over comfort. It doesn't destroy the pattern, it reveals it. You are not broken. You are being sculpted. Stop asking why it happened. Start asking what it made possible. That shift changes everything. Pain is not a detour. It's part of the design. The universe is always speaking, not in paragraphs, but in patterns, not in logic, but in resonance, and synchronicity is its most fluent dialect. Synchronicities are not coincidences. They are confirmations. A repeating number, a name spoken by two strangers, a song that plays at the perfect moment. These are not random. They are customized echoes of your inner world. The more aligned you become, the more fluent this language gets. The universe begins to mirror your thoughts before they're spoken. You think of someone, they call. You ask for a sign, it arrives in a billboard or a child's question or a dream. This is not magic. This is pattern matching. Your frequency sends out a signal. The field responds. The pattern arranges symbols to catch your attention, to say, yes, keep going, or pause, shift course, but you must be listening. Synchronicity is not for the distracted. It's for the tuned in, the quiet, the aware. It rewards presence. It deepens with trust. Begin tracking your signs. Note the patterns. What numbers chase you? What symbols keep showing up? What words do strangers repeat? These are not noise, they are navigation. As you honor them, the dialogue deepens. You stop feeling alone, because you're not. You're in conversation with the infinite. The pattern is always speaking. Synchronicity is how it makes sure you hear. Trust is not a soft feeling. It is not passive. It is a technology, one of the most powerful energetic tools available to you. And when engaged fully, it accelerates your alignment, collapses timelines, and amplifies manifestation. The pattern responds to frequency, and the frequency of trust is coherence. It says, I believe before I see, I receive before I grasp, I know without needing to explain. This kind of trust sends a clean signal, free from interference, free from contradiction. And because the signal is clear, the return is fast. Most people use trust as a last resort, something to fall back on when logic runs out. But the truth is, trust should be the first step, because it sets the tone for everything that follows. It opens you. It expands your field. It moves you from force to flow. Lack of trust clogs the system. Doubt generates static. Worry creates delay. Not because the pattern is punishing you, but because the energy becomes incoherent. The signal breaks apart. You move in circles. To upgrade your trust, stop asking how and start affirming it is. The moment you let go of needing all the details, space is made for the pattern to deliver them. This is not delusion, it is design. Trust gives the pattern room to surprise you. Practice trust in micro moments. When something delays, trust. When a door closes, trust. When silence replaces response, trust. Don't collapse. Don't contract. Expand. You are not trusting blindly. You are trusting energetically, because at a higher level, your outcome is already written. Trust is how you read ahead. It's not just faith, it's function. You will drift. That's not failure, it's rhythm. No one stays aligned every moment of every day. The goal is not perfection. The goal is return. And the faster you return, the more consistent your power becomes. This is where rituals matter. Not out of obligation, but as anchors. Sacred pauses you return to, portals back into coherence. A ritual of return doesn't have to be elaborate, it only has to be real. A deep breath with intention, a sentence that reclaims your truth, a touchstone in your pocket, a journal prompt, a 5-minute walk in silence. These are not small, they're portals. What matters is not the ritual itself, but the awareness it carries. It says, I know when I've drifted, and I know how to come home. Begin noticing your signals. For some, misalignment feels like anxiety. For others, it's irritability, overthinking, emotional numbness. Whatever it is, catch it early. That's the point of a ritual. It helps you notice when you've stepped out of the pattern before the misalignment snowballs. And when you return, return gently. No guilt, no judgment. Just presence. Realignment is not punishment, it's a gift. The pattern doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be aware. Your rituals are the thread that keeps you tethered to your truth, even when the wind picks up. Create them. Keep them simple. Use them often. They are your way back to the frequency where everything flows. Everywhere you go, you leave a trail. Not just footprints, but frequencies. The conversations you have, the thoughts you carry, the emotions you emit. They ripple into the environment. The field remembers. Walk into a room where someone has just argued, and you feel the tension. Enter a sacred place, and you sense the peace. That's not imagination. That's energetic residue. Space holds memory, not in story, but in signature. You're not just moving through life, you're shaping it. Every room you enter, every interaction you engage in, becomes part of your energetic legacy. This is why your presence matters more than your performance. People won't always remember what you said, but they will remember how they felt in your energy. And that feeling lingers. It shapes how they move forward, often in ways you never see. The same goes for your creative work, your writing, your art, your voice. These are vessels. They hold your frequency long after you've moved on. That's why some songs make you cry. Why some books feel like home. They're charged with resonance. Begin asking, what am I leaving behind in this space? When you exit a meeting, a conversation, a home, did you leave calm or chaos, clarity or confusion? That awareness shifts how you show up. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be present, because the field is listening. And long after you've gone, your energy continues the conversation. There is a moment before everything changes, a breath, a beat, a space between effort and outcome. That space is sacred. It is the pause, and within it lives your power. Modern life glorifies movement. It teaches you to equate motion with meaning, speed with success. But the pattern doesn't rush. The pattern expands, and expansion requires pause. The sacred pause is not laziness, it's alignment. It's the moment you step out of reaction and into reflection. It's where wisdom gathers. It's where clarity speaks. It's where next steps become obvious. When you don't pause, you override guidance. You act from impulse, fear, habit. You move without direction. You spiral. But when you pause, when you breathe before the answer, listen before the reaction, wait before the leap, everything slows. Space opens, and in that space, transformation happens. Try this. The next time you feel triggered or urgent, pause. Ask what is really needed here. Not what the habit says, not what the fear screams, what the deeper self knows. The pause reconnects you. It grounds your action. It purifies your intention. Most breakthroughs don't come from hustle. They come from stillness, from being willing to wait just long enough for the pattern to catch up with your awareness. Don't be afraid to pause. It doesn't mean nothing's happening. It means something is integrating. In stillness, the most powerful moves are made. True mastery is not about gaining more control over life. It is about releasing the need for control altogether. Mastery does not cling. It allows. It does not force. It flows, and it does so with a quiet power born of deep trust in the pattern that governs everything. Control is a concept rooted in fear. It comes from the belief that unless you orchestrate every detail, life will collapse. That if you loosen your grip, the whole vision will vanish. This belief is not only false, it's exhausting. It puts you in constant tension with what is, making you a servant to the outcomes you fear not achieving. When you try to control the outcome, you're saying to the pattern, I don't trust the intelligence of the design. You're positioning yourself as the only reliable architect in a universe that has been orchestrating the seasons, the stars, and your breath without your supervision. That's not wisdom. It's resistance dressed in logic. Mastery, on the other hand, is internal alignment so precise that outcomes become inevitable. Not because you micromanage the journey, but because you matched the destination in frequency and allowed it to unfold. You've been taught to hustle, to chase, to force. But mastery moves differently. It listens first. It responds with precision. It takes action, yes, but not from panic or scarcity. It acts from clarity, from grounded inner knowing. And because that action is clean, the result is powerful. You can still be ambitious. You can still desire more, build bigger, reach further. But when you operate from mastery, your expansion doesn't come with strain. It comes with grace, because you are moving in harmony with the pattern, not wrestling against it. This kind of trust is not passive. It's potent. It is the highest form of confidence, to release the need to control and still know that all will unfold in your favor. That kind of trust transforms timelines. It collapses resistance. It activates magnetism. It says to the universe, I've become the person who already has this, so you can deliver it in whatever form and time is best. The truth is, control is the ego's attempt to do the soul's job, and that job is not yours. Your job is alignment, coherence, embodiment. When you live that way, life has no choice but to respond. Letting go of control does not mean letting go of responsibility. It means taking responsibility for your state, not the result. It means doing what's yours to do and releasing what never was. And when you do, you'll find the path clears. people show up, timing aligns, and things begin to feel effortless, not because life changed, but because your relationship to it did. Control is heavy. It pulls you into worry, exhaustion, manipulation. Mastery is light. It lifts you into flow, faith, precision. Choose the one that expands you, and you'll become a living expression of the pattern itself. You don't need to control the outcome. You need to become the version of you for whom the outcome is inevitable. Then let it come. In the natural world, nothing competes to exist. Trees do not argue over sunlight. Rivers do not fight for direction. The bee does not resent the butterfly. Everything flows in harmony, in order, in right place and timing. Competition is not a universal law. It is a cultural myth, one born from the illusion of separation and scarcity. But the pattern knows no shortage. When you operate from alignment, you see clearly. Your path does not intersect with someone else's to push them out. It runs parallel. It complements. It completes a circuit. Your frequency is unique, and therefore your expression of purpose is irreplicable. No one can take what is yours because it was never theirs to hold, and you cannot lose what is in resonance with your essence. The trap of competition lies in the belief that success is limited, that opportunities are few, that worth must be proven, that only the loudest or fastest or most relentless get to rise. But the pattern does not respond to volume or force. It responds to clarity, integrity, contribution. Collaboration invites expansion. When two aligned frequencies interact without threat, they amplify. They create more than the sum of their parts. Think of every breakthrough in art, science, philosophy. It was not born in a vacuum. It emerged through intersection, through the willing exchange of vision, energy, and courage. To live as a collaborator is to live with open hands. It means you are not grasping, you are offering. You share what you know, what you've grown, what you've been gifted, not because you want something back, but because you recognize the pattern thrives through circulation. Scarcity creates clenching. Abundance creates circulation. If you believe you must compete to survive, you will hold everything too tightly, and your energy will become heavy, brittle, and difficult to expand. But if you know that giving expands you, that rising together strengthens the whole field, you will attract allies instead of rivals. You don't have to diminish another's light to shine. In fact, in a universe built on energy, attempting to dim another's light only shadows your own. Elevation is exponential when it is shared. If someone around you succeeds, that's not a threat. It's a sign that the frequency is near, that the vibration is accessible, that the resonance is real. There is no need to compete when you are complete. And when you see yourself as part of the whole, not in conflict with it, life becomes symphonic. Each moment, each encounter, each opportunity becomes a chance to harmonize rather than outplay. The pattern is not a ladder. It is a web. Your rise lifts the strands around you. Others' success echoes into your field. Collaboration isn't charity, it's coherence. And in a coherent field, no one gets left behind. You weren't built to outdo anyone. You were built to unlock something that only you can bring. Let others do the same and watch the world bloom. There is a turning point in every journey where you stop searching and start radiating. You stop asking, "Where is it?" and begin knowing it is already within me. That moment is not theoretical. It is energetic. It's the shift from seeker to signal. Most people spend their lives reaching, grasping for love, recognition, peace, abundance. They move from one tool to the next, one teacher to the next, always trying to locate something outside themselves. But as long as you see yourself as the one who is lacking, the pattern must mirror that. It must continue placing the thing you desire just out of reach. Becoming the signal means you stop chasing, you start embodying, you align your inner frequency with the reality you want to experience, and let the field respond to you. not as a reward, as a reflection. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. This shift begins with awareness. Who are you being when you walk into a room? What are you broadcasting in your silence? What does your presence say before your words ever arrive? These questions are not abstract. They are energetic mechanics. Your presence precedes your results. When you become the signal, people feel it. You don't have to prove anything. Your energy speaks first. You may notice more people are drawn to you without knowing why. They feel your alignment. They respond to the coherence of someone who is no longer performing, no longer pretending, no longer needing. Your desires do not want to be hunted. They want to be magnetized. They want to land in a field that feels safe to hold them. When you live as if what you seek is already yours, you raise your capacity to receive it. That is the work, not in the chasing, but in the choosing. You become the signal by acting from your future self now, not in fantasy, but in fidelity. You ask, how would I move if I already had it? Then you begin to move that way. You ask, what would I expect if I knew it was done? Then you begin expecting that. This is not pretending. This is calibrating. Everything around you is responsive. Every room you enter, every conversation you hold, every project you touch, it all picks up on your signal, and your signal is not in your words. It is in your state. So guard it, cultivate it, feed it like a sacred fire. You no longer need to beg for alignment. You are the alignment. You no longer wait for signs. You are the confirmation. The path is drawn toward you because your frequency becomes its map. When you become the signal, you stop reaching and start receiving, because you are no longer asking if you're ready. You are living like you already are. Real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't shout, posture, or seek attention. True authority is silent, subtle, and invisible. It's not about how many words you say. It's about the frequency you carry when you enter a space. There is an energetic presence that precedes influence. Before you speak, before you explain, before you try to be understood, your energy is already making an impression. People feel it. Rooms shift. Tension dissolves or builds depending on the signal you're broadcasting. Invisible authority is not control. It's coherence. It's not intimidation. It's resonance. When you are internally aligned, when your energy is clean, focused, and grounded, people listen, even if they don't know why. They lean in. They defer without being told, not because you demanded it, but because your presence made the demand unnecessary. This type of authority cannot be taught through titles, roles, or tactics. It's built through embodiment. When you live your truth without flinching, without needing validation, you carry a charge. People can feel the difference between someone who knows who they are and someone who's still trying to prove it. You don't get invisible authority by being louder. You get it by being clear. Clear in your intention, clear in your values, clear in your boundaries. When you are internally settled, others settle around you. This is why some people walk into a room and instantly command respect, without raising their voice, without asserting dominance. They're not trying to win the space. They are the space. Their energy fills it because it's integrated, whole, coherent. Your influence multiplies the moment you stop performing. When you're no longer trying to impress, convince, or defend, your presence becomes more potent. Your actions land with more impact. Your silence speaks with more clarity. The pattern responds to energy, not ego. And others subconsciously do the same. They calibrate to your level of presence. If you're anxious, they pick it up. If you're grounded, they feel it. If you're certain, they don't question you. Not because they've been told to trust you, but because something in them recognizes something stable in you. Invisible authority comes when you take yourself seriously enough that you no longer need to be taken seriously. You stop looking outward for permission. You stop explaining your value. You simply radiate it, and the world arranges itself in response. Influence is not about being seen, it's about being felt. When you walk in alignment, you walk in quiet power. That power cannot be faked, taught, or borrowed. It must be lived, and once it is, you no longer seek authority. You become it. The most powerful creators are not loud. They do not seek applause. They don't explain what they're building. They simply build it. They do not beg for approval. They know who they are, and that knowing is their foundation. Quiet confidence is not arrogance. It's not about being better than anyone else. It's about being anchored in yourself. It's about living from truth without needing to advertise it. It is a presence that speaks before you do, a stability that others feel before you move. When you create from this place, your work carries a different charge. You're not trying to be impressive. You're not chasing validation. You're expressing essence. You're answering a call. And because your motive is pure, the pattern rushes to meet you. This is the confidence that moves worlds. It doesn't argue. It doesn't explain. It just is. It doesn't need proof because it's not trying to convince anyone. The creator who walks in quiet confidence does not ask, "Will this be enough?" They say, "This is what I've been given to birth. I will not abandon it." This energy is magnetic. It invites trust. People are drawn to those who aren't desperate for attention. They are calmed by your certainty. They are softened by your stillness. They lean in because you are not pushing out. To embody quiet confidence, you must first stop negotiating your value. You must stop looking for signs that you're allowed to proceed. You must decide that you are, not because someone said so, but because you know, because it resonates, because you've made peace with the part of you that no longer needs to justify anything. You do not need to explain your path to those who can't hear it. You do not need to delay your work until others understand it. Not everyone is meant to see what you see, but that does not mean you're wrong. True creators build from the inside out. Their faith is stronger than public opinion. Their consistency is rooted in vision, not external applause. They keep showing up, they keep aligning, and eventually, the world catches up. The loudest voice in the room is rarely the most certain. Real certainty is still. It's stable. It's magnetic because it doesn't waver. You can build empires from this kind of confidence, not through shouting, but through showing up again and again, with presence, with clarity, with trust. You don't need to prove what you already know. You only need to live it. You've spent years trying to become worthy, become ready, become successful. But the truth is there is nothing to become, only something to remember. The pattern doesn't wait for you to evolve into someone new. It responds the moment you embody who you've always been, who you are beneath the conditioning, beneath the fear, beneath the identity built to please, to survive, to belong. Your power is not something you find. It is something you uncover. Peel back the layers, and what remains is not a blank slate. It's a blueprint, an encoded signature of truth, essence, brilliance. Becoming is not the building of something new, it's the shedding of everything false. When you stop striving to become, you allow yourself to be. And in that being, you unlock what was always waiting, the gifts you've carried since birth, the insights that were never taught, the instincts that make no logical sense but feel absolutely right. You already are the person your future requires. You just haven't always been allowed to live as them. But the moment you give yourself permission, the pattern responds. Opportunities surface. People appear, not because you've earned it, but because you've aligned with it. This is why the work is inner first. Not because outer action doesn't matter, but because no amount of doing can override a self-concept built on lack. You don't change your life by effort alone. You change it by embodying the version of you who already knows it's done. Try this. Stop waiting to feel ready. Instead, move as the one who is. Stop asking if you're enough. Begin living like you are, because you are. The shift doesn't happen when you finally become. It happens the moment you remember. Everything you've been searching for is simply a reflection of the self you've been avoiding. The self who doesn't need fixing, who doesn't need permission, who only needs your recognition. You are not on your way. You are already it. Start acting like it. There is a self within you that was never touched by pain. It does not carry trauma. It does not flinch at rejection. It does not question its worth. This self has been with you since the beginning, before the roles, before the stories, before the wounds. It is not your personality. It is not your thoughts. It is not your past. It is your essence, and it cannot be broken. You are not your mistakes. You are not your titles. You are not your most difficult experiences. These are layers, temporary, flexible, removable. Beneath them is something permanent, something original, and remembering this changes everything. For most of your life, you were taught to define yourself by what happened to you, by who approved of you or who didn't, by what you succeeded at or what you failed to complete. But all of these are stories. They may be part of your experience, but they are not the totality of your being. When life brings pain, it feels like the foundation of who you are has cracked, but that feeling is a trick of the ego. The foundation remains untouched. What cracks is the shell, the identity built on roles and expectations. The real you remains, watching, waiting, steady. This is the you who stays calm in crisis, the you who knows what's true even when the world disagrees, the you who cannot be manipulated by fear because it has nothing to prove. You've touched this self before when you were deeply still, deeply present, perhaps in a moment of meditation, in nature, in grief, in silence. It's the you that does not disappear no matter what happens. The world often rewards the brittle self, the one who performs, reacts, overachieves, protects. But that version exhausts you because it's always one comment away from collapse, one judgment away from shame. It's fragile, but the deeper self doesn't play that game. It doesn't posture or explain. It just is. To discover the self that cannot be broken, you must be willing to stop clinging to the one that can. You must stop identifying with your trauma. Stop worshiping your wounds. Stop thinking that pain is what makes you deep. What makes you deep is the you who witnessed it all and remained intact. You don't become indestructible by never falling. You become indestructible by realizing the part of you that stood up after every fall is who you truly are. This is not detachment. It is devotion to truth, to presence, to peace. When you live from this self, you stop needing to be right. You stop chasing safety. You stop fearing endings. You become more available to the moment because you're no longer afraid of breaking. What's real cannot be harmed. What's eternal cannot be lost. You've been taught to armor your ego, but the real protection lies in unearthing the self that needs no defense. Live from there. There is a state of consciousness so subtle, so expansive, that most never touch it. It does not come through control. It is not reached by effort. It arrives when you release the grip, when you let go of your insistence that things unfold in the exact way you imagined. This state is called divine neutrality, and it is one of the highest frequencies you can embody. To be neutral in the divine sense is not to be passive. It is not indifference. It is not carelessness or detachment from life. In fact, it is the opposite. Divine neutrality is full engagement, total presence, and deep trust in the pattern. It's saying, I care deeply, but I am not attached to outcome. I act with clarity, but I do not demand control. So much of human suffering comes not from what happens, but from the insistence that it should be happening differently. The more you argue with life, the more resistance you create. The more you fixate on specific results, the tighter your energy becomes. And miracles cannot enter a field that is tense, narrow, and rigid. Miracles require space. When you approach life with divine neutrality, you open that space. You say to the pattern, here is what I desire, but I trust what you deliver. That trust transforms the nature of your desire. It softens the sharpness. It removes desperation. It shifts your vibration from need to availability. From this frequency, everything flows more easily. Because you're not gripping, you're not trying to squeeze outcomes out of thin air. You're allowing the pattern to respond not to your pressure, but to your presence. This is why the things you've chased often elude you, while the things you've forgotten to obsess over show up effortlessly. When you are neutral, you're magnetic. You're not repelling what you want with anxiety or fear. You're inviting it calmly, confidently, as someone who knows they're already whole. Divine neutrality doesn't mean you stop desiring. It means you stop assigning meaning to what happens. You stop saying, if I get this, I'm worthy. If I don't, I've failed. You start realizing that nothing can add to or subtract from your essence, that you are enough, with or without the result. To practice this, choose one area of your life where you've been gripping tightly, where the outcome feels heavy, urgent, emotionally loaded. Then take one breath and release the need for it to go a certain way. Say silently, I open to the highest good in the way it chooses to arrive, and mean it. What comes after may not match your plan, but it will match your peace. In divine neutrality, you're not surrendering desire. You're surrendering distortion. You're clearing space for the pattern to deliver something you may not have imagined, but that fits better than you could have dreamed. When you let go of needing it to be your way, life shows up a better way. There is a subtle illusion that haunts many seekers, that divinity lives in faraway temples, mountaintop rituals, and rare states of cosmic bliss. That awakening is somewhere out there, and the ordinary moments of life, groceries, laundry, emails, traffic, are spiritual distractions, not sacred invitations. But the pattern is not only found in extremes, it's encoded in everything. The sacred is not the exception. It's the structure. The divine is not hiding in some other realm. It's woven into the very world you call mundane. The sacred ordinary is the art of seeing what has always been present. It's what happens when you stop waiting for something special and start noticing what's real. The texture of water on your skin as you wash dishes, the exhale of relief after a long day, the golden light of morning slipping through curtains. These are not placeholders between important moments. They are the teaching. You were never meant to escape your life to find the divine. You were meant to return to it. The floor beneath your feet is as holy as any altar if you meet it with reverence. The sound of your child laughing, the smell of bread baking, the brief eye contact with a stranger on the train, these are portals. All that's required is presence. Presence turns routine into ritual. It turns chores into ceremony. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It matters how you're being while you do it. Can you sweep the floor with love? Can you make your morning coffee as an offering? Can you walk through the parking lot like it's sacred ground? You don't need incense or Sanskrit or spiritual language. You need attention. Attention is the gateway, because where your attention goes, your energy flows. And where your energy flows, presence follows. And where presence is, the divine appears. The sacred ordinary is the path of the mystic disguised as the mother, the barista, the student, the tired worker. It's the realization that you don't need to withdraw from the world to awaken. You need to wake up in the world you already live in. This doesn't mean bypassing hardship or pretending everything is beautiful. It means honoring the entire range of life. Feeling your sadness fully, noticing your breath while stuck in traffic, sitting in silence between texts, washing your face like it matters. Because it does. When you begin living this way, your life changes, not because the tasks disappear, but because the meaning deepens. The pattern doesn't just reward presence, it mirrors it. The more present you are, the more grace appears. Coincidences multiply, clarity rises, life begins to feel like prayer. You are not disconnected, you are distracted. The divine has always been in the room, you just forgot how to see. Start where you are, with what you have, in the quietest, most ordinary moment of your day, because that moment, if met with presence, becomes holy. Time is one of the most convincing illusions we live inside. The calendar divides our lives into days, months, and years. The clock carves our hours into slices of productivity and pressure. Yet some moments feel infinite, while entire years can disappear into memory like vapor. This is your clue. Time is not what you think it is. True time, real time, is not measured in duration. It is measured in depth. A second soaked in presence can feel like a lifetime. A conversation, a silence, a glance can open something so vast within you that it transcends all calculation. This is eternity in a moment, and it is always available. Eternity is not a future place. It is a frequency. It arrives when you enter full awareness of now, when you're not divided between past regrets or future worries, when your attention stops fragmenting and lands wholly in the moment at hand. Have you noticed how time bends depending on your presence? When you're anxious, an hour feels like forever. When you're joyful, 3 hours pass in what feels like 5 minutes. This is not just perception, it's physics. Time expands and contracts based on how deeply you're living. Presence is the key that unlocks eternity. And presence doesn't require stillness. You don't need to meditate in a cave to find it. You can enter eternity washing dishes, holding a hand, watching the sky shift in the late afternoon. All that's required is your full attention. This is what the mystics understood, that God is not somewhere else, in some distant future. The divine meets you where you are, but only when you are truly there. Not multitasking, not planning the next 5 steps, just fully inhabiting what is. In that space, time slows. Sometimes it disappears. You may already know the feeling. The moment you first held your child, a walk where the air felt impossibly clear, a song that hit something timeless inside you. Those were not accidents. They were glimpses of reality without time, glimpses of eternity. The more you practice this presence, the more the moment opens. What once felt ordinary becomes luminous. What once felt rushed becomes enough. What once was fleeting becomes eternal, not in how long it lasts, but in how deeply it is lived. This isn't about escaping time, it's about using it differently, filling it with meaning, stretching into its center instead of sprinting across its surface. You can't always control the length of your days, but you can control their depth. Slow down, breathe, let this very moment be enough. Enter it fully without rushing to the next, and you'll find what you've been searching for isn't in the future. It's right here, waiting for you to arrive. Desire is a beautiful thing. It's part of the engine of growth, an invitation to become more, to expand into your next expression. But desire twisted by lack becomes a trap. It tells you that what you want is far away, outside of you, something you must chase, earn, or prove yourself worthy of. This distortion creates longing without landing, constant seeking, but no arrival. The truth is, you already are what you seek. You already hold what you desire at the level of essence. The version of you who lives in abundance, peace, joy, and love is not a fantasy. It's an inner reality waiting for you to live from it. Not in imagination, but in vibration. Wholeness is not perfection. It's not the absence of wounds or questions. It's the presence of recognition. When you feel whole, you stop needing external validation to feel complete. You no longer try to use people, outcomes, or goals to fill a space within you. You remember that the space was never broken, only forgotten. When you embody wholeness, your desires shift. Not because you stop wanting, but because the wanting becomes peaceful. It no longer comes from anxiety. It comes from clarity, from joy. You don't need the thing to make you okay. You're okay already. And from that okayness, creation flows freely. This is the frequency of wholeness. It is calm, rooted, trusting. It says, I know who I am, I know what I carry, I know what I'm capable of. I welcome more, but I do not need more to be enough. From this vibration, manifestation accelerates. Not because you're trying harder, but because your field is open, aligned, no longer sending out mixed signals of, I want this, and I don't believe I can have it. Instead, your field says, it is already mine in essence. Now it is simply arriving in form. The pattern mirrors this state quickly. Opportunities come because you're no longer energetically resisting them. People show up because you're not pushing them away with subconscious fear. What you used to chase begins to land effortlessly, not as a reward, but as a match. To shift into this frequency, begin treating yourself like someone who already holds what they desire and ask, how would I walk, talk, and choose if I already felt whole? Then begin to live from that space. Choose actions, environments, and thoughts that reflect enoughness. Refuse to wait until conditions change to feel complete. You're not postponing joy, you're remembering it. You're not striving for worthiness, you're reclaiming it. That's what wholeness does. It doesn't inflate you, it settles you into your body, into your power, into presence. And from that presence, desire becomes less about chasing and more about allowing. The moment you realize you already hold it all, everything you once chased becomes quiet. Some of it falls away, some of it arrives. Either way, you've already won, because what you sought was never the thing, it was the feeling, and the feeling was always inside you. The instinct to fix what's wrong is deeply ingrained. From an early age, you're taught to identify problems and solve them. You carry this mindset into your relationships, your career, your health, your growth. But there's a deeper truth behind all of it. You are not here to fix a broken life. You are here to align with the version of your life that's already whole. In the pattern, all possibilities already exist. There is a version of you where the conflict has been resolved, where clarity has returned, where abundance flows easily. These aren't dreams, they are frequencies, energetic signatures that exist within the vast quantum field. You don't need to build them from scratch. You only need to match them. When you obsess over problems, you feed their vibration. You entrench your awareness in lack, in frustration, in confusion. The pattern, ever responsive, reflects that signal back to you. The more you try to fix, the more broken it all appears, because you're asking life to deliver something different while still tuning to the frequency of the issue. Pattern matching shifts this entirely. Instead of asking, what's wrong and how do I fix it? You ask, what version of me has already moved beyond this, and how do I align with them now? You begin to feel into the outcome rather than fixate on the process. You ask, how would I think, speak, and act if this were already resolved? Then you begin to live from that place. This is not fantasy, it's fidelity. You're not pretending, you're attuning. Just like a radio doesn't create the station, it simply picks it up. You don't need to fix the world to experience peace. You need to embody the version of yourself who is already in peace, and the world will begin to reflect it. This approach requires trust, not blind faith, but energetic integrity. You must stop using your current reality as the evidence of what's possible, because your current reality is not the whole truth. It's just one broadcast out of many. When you shift into pattern matching, you conserve energy. You stop fighting fires and start generating alignment. You take your attention off what's missing and move it toward what's emerging. You allow your nervous system to settle. And from that settled place, insight flows. Action becomes clear. Doors open. Try it now. Choose one challenge. Close your eyes. Imagine the version of you for whom this is already resolved. What do they know that you've forgotten? What are they no longer afraid of? Begin tuning to that. Pattern matching isn't about denial, it's about direction. You're choosing your alignment first and letting that create your evidence. The life you want is not a reward for solving every problem. It's a frequency that becomes available when you stop chasing solutions and start embodying resolution. Match the pattern and the problem dissolves. Desire is not meant to torment you, it's meant to lead you. But for many, desire becomes a symbol of distance, a reminder of how far you still are from what you want. That distance creates resistance. Resistance slows manifestation, and yet the pattern does not operate through striving. It responds to alignment. To collapse the gap between what you want and what you live, you must stop thinking of your desire as somewhere out there. Desire is not far, it is a frequency. The only thing separating you from it is the belief that separation exists. Every time you think, "I'll have it one day," you place it in the future. Every time you say, "When I'm ready," you delay your readiness. But what if the version of you who already lives the desire is available now? What if your role is not to chase them, but to become them? Collapsing the gap begins by claiming identity. Desire is not just about outcomes, it's about embodiment. The person who has what you want doesn't just think differently, they feel differently. They walk, speak, and choose from a different frequency. The gap closes when you shift your state, not later, but now. This is not pretending. This is pre-living. This is choosing to act as the version of you who already knows, who already trusts, who already sees proof before it arrives, not because you're faking anything, but because you're done deferring your power. Desire wants to be fulfilled, but it cannot land in a field that keeps pushing it away through hesitation, disbelief, or need. When you begin to act, feel, and align as the one who already has it, you're telling the pattern, "I'm ready to collapse the timeline." And it does. Because time is not linear, it is responsive. It stretches or contracts based on your energetic clarity. When you're uncertain, the distance grows. When you're decisive, the timeline shortens. So how do you close the space? First, stop measuring how far you have to go. Start measuring how close you feel. If a thought, habit, or conversation makes you feel separate from your desire, drop it. Replace it with one that makes you feel near. Nearness is the signal. Second, remove someday language from your vocabulary. Start talking like someone who expects it. Walk like someone who carries it. Breathe like someone who knows. Finally, trust the bridge. You don't have to know every step. You only have to know the state. And when your state matches your desire, the pattern builds the path beneath your feet. You are not waiting for your life to change. You are choosing the version where it already has. Step into that, and the gap collapses. Your body is not a machine. It is not simply flesh, chemistry, and mechanics. It is an oracle, a translator of energy, a living, breathing instrument tuned to reflect your internal alignment with precision. The body doesn't lie. It responds, it mirrors, it reveals. When you are aligned, the body feels light, open, relaxed. Movement flows, breath deepens, digestion settles, sleep restores. This is not coincidence. This is coherence. The pattern is always communicating, and your body is its first messenger. When something is out of sync, the body will tell you long before your mind can rationalize it. Most people are taught to override the body, push through the fatigue, numb the pain, ignore the tension. But that strategy disconnects you from your own guidance system. The longer you override your signals, the more the messages intensify. Discomfort becomes illness. Restlessness becomes anxiety. A quiet no becomes a full-body shutdown. But when you begin listening, the body becomes your greatest ally, your most honest truth teller. Every symptom, every sensation, every intuitive pull is a form of feedback, a way for the pattern to show you where you are, what you're holding, and what's ready to move. That tightness in your chest during a conversation, it might be your truth asking to be spoken. The knot in your stomach before a meeting, a sign that you're compromising too much. The burst of energy when you think about a new path, a yes echoing through your cells. Your body is not confused. It knows. It remembers. It feels your frequency before your thoughts can catch up. And when you bring presence to it, not judgment, but curiosity, you unlock its wisdom. To treat the body as oracle, you must shift how you relate to it. Stop seeing it as something to conquer or fix. Start treating it like a sacred partner. Speak to it. Ask it questions. Where am I holding tension? What truth am I avoiding? What do you need to feel safe again? Even the smallest rituals of care, stretching with attention, eating with gratitude, breathing with awareness, invite the body to relax. And when the body relaxes, insight flows. The pattern speaks more clearly. Your body is not in the way of your spiritual growth. It is the pathway. It grounds the vision. It receives the energy. It manifests the shift. The more you trust it, the more it reveals. So begin listening, not just with your ears, but with your presence. Let each ache, each tingle, each pull guide you, because often your mind will lie to keep you safe, but your body will tell the truth to set you free. You are not a soul trapped in a body. You are a soul expressed through one. Let it speak. There is a version of you who already lives the life you're envisioning. They exist not in the distant future, but in the field of infinite possibilities, an energetic reality waiting to be claimed. To access it, you must stop living from where you are and begin living from where you are going. This is the power of living from the end. Living from the end does not mean pretending. It does not mean fantasizing or playing make-believe. It means feeling, acting, and choosing from the knowing that the desire is already yours. It means embodying the outcome now, before the evidence shows up, before the confirmation arrives. This approach flips everything. Most people wait for permission. They say, once I get the job, then I'll feel confident. Once I meet the right person, then I'll feel worthy. But the pattern doesn't work like that. It doesn't deliver results and then reward you with a new state. It delivers results that reflect your current state. Living from the end means choosing the state first. I am already supported. I am already loved. I am already aligned. You carry that energy into your decisions, your posture, your tone, not because you're hoping, but because you've already chosen. You do not manifest from need. You manifest from embodiment. When you feel as though your desire has already occurred, you collapse the space between intention and realization. Your vibration becomes the match, and the pattern rushes to respond. To live from the end, ask yourself daily, how would I move through today if the goal was already complete? Then move that way. If your dream version of you starts the morning in peace, make space for peace now. If they carry themselves with assurance, drop the self-doubt now. If they no longer over-explain, let silence speak for you now. You are not waiting for your life to prove it. You are becoming the proof. This practice requires faith, not blind belief, but grounded knowing. You won't always see the path ahead, but you're not walking from the past. You're walking from the destination, and the destination carries instructions. If you listen closely, it will tell you how to show up, who to call, what to release. This is not delusion, it is design. You are broadcasting a signal, and life is echoing back your certainty or your confusion. When you anchor yourself in the feeling of already done, the world rearranges to meet you there. Your job is not to force the outcome. Your job is to embody the version of you who has already lived it. Let the end become the teacher. Let your vision become your vibration, and let every moment become a match for the future that already exists. You are not chasing your dream, you are walking as it. Every person who enters your life is more than just a character in your story. They are mirrors, teachers, echoes, reflections of the pattern as it moves through the landscape of your consciousness. They do not arrive by accident. They arrive with information. sometimes encouragement, sometimes challenge, always relevance. You were never meant to walk through life isolated in your perspective. The pattern weaves through everyone, and through that weaving you get to see parts of yourself you can't perceive alone. This is the great intelligence behind relationships, friendships, partnerships, and even fleeting interactions with strangers. They don't just show you who they are, they show you who you are being. The people who trigger you often hold a mirror to a shadow you've avoided. The people who inspire you show you a frequency you're ready to embody. The people who abandon you teach you to stop abandoning yourself. The ones who see you clearly reveal how much of yourself you've reclaimed. When you begin to view others through this lens, judgment softens, curiosity increases. You stop asking, "Why are they like this?" and start asking, "What are they reflecting?" This doesn't mean you justify poor behavior or tolerate mistreatment. It means you use the moment. You extract the code. You let the reflection refine your awareness. In the pattern, nothing is wasted. Even conflict has a purpose. It sharpens your discernment. It points to where boundaries must be set or where compassion must be deepened. You are not reacting to random personalities. You are in dialogue with the pattern itself through the medium of people. The more you embody this truth, the more your interactions shift. You become less defensive because you realize nothing is truly personal. You become more empowered because you know that what bothers you in someone else is often an invitation to adjust your frequency. And just as others reflect you, you reflect them. Your presence teaches, even in silence. Your alignment inspires, even without effort. You become part of someone else's pattern, offering a signal, a lesson, or a spark that changes them, perhaps forever. This is why healing yourself heals the field. When you release a limiting pattern, you don't just shift your life. You shift how others experience you. You stop co-creating from wounds. You start co-creating from wholeness. Everyone is a mirror, but some mirrors are clearer than others. Pay attention to who shows up when you're in transition, who challenges you when you're stuck, who uplifts you when you forget. These are not coincidences. They are messages in human form. You're not separate from anyone. You're connected through energy, through resonance, through the shared web of the pattern. See others not as strangers, but as symbols, not as problems, but as portals. Because when you do, the entire world becomes your teacher, and every reflection brings you closer to the truth of who you really are. There is a sacred balance between surrender and leadership, between yielding and choosing. This balance is not taught often because the world tends to frame surrender as defeat and control as dominance. But in the pattern, both energies are necessary, both are intelligent, and when held together, they create a state of effortless momentum. Surrender is not about passivity. It's not about sitting back and watching your life unfold without direction. Surrender is the release of resistance. It's the conscious decision to stop pushing against what already wants to carry you. When you stop trying to control every outcome, every step, every person, you create space. Space for the pattern to move. Space for miracles to land. Space for intelligence greater than your mind to take over. But surrender without clarity becomes drifting, aimless, disempowered. That's not the surrender we're talking about. The true art is to let go of control while staying in command of your state, your presence, your intention. You are not surrendering your vision. You're surrendering the obsession with how it must arrive. Control is about outcomes. Command is about frequency. You were never meant to control the details. You were meant to hold the vibration, to stay anchored in your knowing while life orchestrates the unfolding. When you're in flow, things move easily, not because you've given up, but because you've aligned. You're not chasing life. Life is responding to your centeredness. From this place, timing becomes irrelevant. You are no longer measuring progress by what's happening outside. You are attuned to the current underneath, and you trust it. It may sound paradoxical, but it's the paradox that works. Surrender the form, hold the frequency. Let go of your grip, but don't let go of your groundedness. Allow flexibility in how the outcome appears, but never question your right to receive it. This is how power becomes peaceful. You are not tense. You are not needy. You are clear. And that clarity is a beacon. It directs the flow. It shapes what arrives. You don't need to bend the world to your will when your will is already resonating with what's true. Try this in real time. Take one area where you've been clenching, trying to control the process. Ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I let go? Then ask, what part of this can I still hold with strength? You'll find that when you release control over the timeline or the specifics, you gain back your sense of inner command. And that's where your real leverage lives. This isn't about surrendering your life. It's about surrendering the illusion that you can control life better than it already knows to move. Once you do, you begin to walk as both river and rudder, guided by flow, steered by clarity. You're not meant to let go of everything, just the part that was never yours to carry. There comes a quiet moment in the journey, so subtle it often goes unnoticed, when the seeking simply stops, not because you've given up, not because you've lost interest, but because something deep inside you has finally remembered what it already knows. The end of seeking is not the end of growth. It's the end of chasing growth as if it lives somewhere outside of you. It's the end of spiritual striving, of constantly reaching for a future version of yourself that feels more acceptable, more enlightened, more whole. It's the moment you realize that what you've been looking for is not ahead of you, but beneath you, within you, waiting patiently behind all the effort. Seeking is a sacred beginning. It pulls you from numbness. It activates awareness. It cracks you open to the mystery. But if you're not careful, the path becomes another form of self-rejection. You start using the pursuit of healing as proof that you are not yet enough. You start using books, teachers, tools, and teachings as evidence that your current self is still lacking. But what if nothing is missing? What if all your growth has been guiding you not toward a better version of you, but toward the version of you that never needed fixing in the first place? When the seeking ends, a different kind of clarity arrives, one rooted not in answers, but in presence. You stop searching for the next tool and begin living as the tool. You stop chasing signs and start noticing how you've become the signal. You stop waiting for the next level and begin acting like you already embody it. This is where transformation becomes effortless. You still evolve, but not from urgency. You still expand, but not from deficiency. You move because it feels natural, not because you think you have to catch up to something. You don't need to be obsessed with healing to live a healed life. You don't need to constantly reframe your wounds to prove that you're doing the work. Sometimes the greatest growth comes in the stillness, in the choice to breathe, to walk slowly, to sip your tea without multitasking, in the radical act of being here, fully as you are. You'll still have moments of forgetting. That's okay. This isn't about staying in some perfect state. It's about releasing the obsession with becoming someone else. It's about trusting that who you already are is fertile ground for everything you want to grow into. The end of seeking is the beginning of sovereignty. You move with deeper ease. You speak less but mean more. You stop consuming information endlessly and start creating from the wisdom you've already embodied. You realize that transformation doesn't always look like breaking open. Sometimes it looks like sitting still, like choosing joy, like no longer needing to earn your place in the world. You are no longer on a path to find yourself. You are now on a path to live yourself. You were never meant to try so hard to be seen. Your presence was designed to speak before your words, to move before your actions, to shine before you even enter a room. True radiance doesn't come from doing more, saying more, or striving harder. It comes from the effortless alignment of being who you already are. This kind of radiance cannot be manufactured. It cannot be imitated or taught. It is not something you put on. It's something you remove everything else to reveal. It arises naturally when the mask falls, when performance stops, and when authenticity steps forward unapologetically. Effortful charisma often feels impressive at first, but it is draining to maintain and eventually loses its magnetism. But someone who is at home within themselves, who is unbothered by needing to impress, who doesn't shape-shift for approval, glows with a quiet gravity. People feel it. They may not know why, but they lean in. They remember you. They trust you. This is the paradox of magnetism. The less you force it, the more you have it. Because at the root, what people are drawn to is coherence, wholeness, truth. When who you are, what you say, and how you act are in harmony, you become naturally attractive, not just in the physical sense, but energetically. You do not need to convince anyone of your worth. You need only to drop the habits that obscure your light. The people you admire most don't shine because they're flawless. They shine because they've accepted themselves so deeply that there's no static between who they are and how they move. Authenticity is magnetic because it's rare. Most people are hiding something. Most are editing themselves in real time, scanning for cues, trying to manage perception. But someone who simply is, who's done performing, who isn't seeking validation, becomes a breath of fresh air. Radiance without effort begins the moment you stop trying to be liked and start choosing to be real. It's when your choices reflect your values, not your fears. When your boundaries are clear, not harsh. When your yes is wholehearted and your no is rooted in peace. You are not radiant because of how much you do. You are radiant because of how aligned you are with what you are. And alignment doesn't take effort. It takes honesty. Honesty about what you care about, what you need, what you no longer resonate with. When you are truly yourself, you do not chase energy. You attract it. The right people, places, and opportunities find you because you are sending out a clear signal. I am not performing. I am available for connection that honors truth. Try this. Next time you enter a room, focus not on what others are thinking about you, but on how fully you can be yourself. Radiance doesn't come from spotlighting. It comes from being lit from within. You are not here to compete for attention. You are here to embody the kind of presence that cannot be ignored. There comes a moment on the path where a deep realization dawns, not as a thought, but as a knowing. You are not just inside the pattern. You are the pattern. You are not merely navigating the flow of life. You are the one casting the ripples, steering the current, shaping the tides. You are both the map and the traveler, the script and the storyteller, the created and the creator. This dual awareness changes everything. No longer are you a character trapped in a cosmic play, hoping the plot works out in your favor. You recognize that the play unfolds according to your energy, your choices, your state of being. You are not separate from the system. You are the system expressing itself through a form, through a timeline, through a set of experiences designed not to define you, but to awaken you. To realize I am the pattern is to understand that the laws you've been learning, attraction, reflection, alignment, embodiment, are not external mechanisms. They are facets of your own consciousness. They are the structure of you unfolding through space and time. And to say, I am the player, is to honor your humanity. You are not here to float in the clouds of metaphysics. You are here to walk the earth, to love, to cry, to fail, to create, to rebuild. Being the player means honoring the sacred tension of choice, of experience, of presence in a body. You do not need to choose between your divine self and your human self. You are both. You are the observer and the experiencer. You are the energy behind the story and the one turning the pages. This isn't contradiction, it's design. It's what allows you to learn and influence simultaneously. When you live from this awareness, your suffering decreases, not because life becomes easy, but because you stop feeling like a victim of it. Challenges still come, but you meet them differently. You ask, why did I place this here for myself? You seek the gift in the tension. You meet the mirror with curiosity, not defensiveness. You begin to walk as someone who is aware of their authorship. You don't just react, you revise. You don't just hope, you align. You don't just wish for change. You embody the change until the pattern must reflect it back to you. This is the highest responsibility, to know that nothing in your life is happening without your vibration's participation. And it is the highest liberation, to know that every pattern can be rewritten because you are its source. You are the storm and the calm, the question and the answer, the vibration and the form it takes. You are not just part of the pattern, you are the pattern, expressing itself through choice, through presence, through the miracle of being here at all. The deeper you go into the fabric of reality, the more you realize it is not composed of things, but of states. You are not navigating through objects and people and problems. You are moving through frequencies, and those frequencies respond not to force, but to resonance. You don't change the world by pushing harder against it. You change the world by matching the version of it that already contains your peace. The pattern is not impressed by urgency. It is activated by coherence, and coherence begins the moment you stop fighting your current experience and begin listening to it, not for facts, but for frequency. What state am I in right now? That single question changes everything. Most people wake up inside the loop of their old identity and wonder why life doesn't feel new. But life cannot reflect what you do not embody. If you rise in the same thoughts, feel the same doubts, walk the same rhythm of fear, the pattern can only echo that signal back. Nothing personal, just precision. To live differently, you must shift the base signal you are broadcasting. You must align not with the life you wish you had, but with the self who already lives it. Feel their ease, move with their timing. Let your body rehearse their pace, because every gesture is a message to the field. This is who I am now, and the field will agree. You don't have to visualize every detail. You have to live the frequency. Frequency is faster than words. It moves ahead of your to-do list. It prepares spaces you haven't entered yet. When you're aligned with the frequency of expansion, things click, not because you earned it, but because you stopped resisting it. This is not a reward system, it's an echo system, and your vibration is the original tone. The most magnetic people are not chasing, they're not even reaching, they're transmitting something steady, something felt, something trusted. They know who they are, not intellectually, but energetically. That knowing becomes gravity, not just for people, but for outcomes, solutions, and synchronicities. The pattern bends towards certainty. Not egoic certainty, but soul-deep clarity, the kind of knowing that doesn't rush because it's already here. You cannot fake this signal. You can mimic the outer behaviors of someone confident, abundant, peaceful, but the pattern doesn't read gestures, it reads essence, and essence cannot lie. If you feel fear under your affirmations, the fear is what is received. If you feel lack under your gratitude, the lack is what is returned. But when you begin to feel enough, truly, quietly, without performance, the pattern responds before the words leave your lips. Life softens, timing aligns, struggle dissolves, not because you fixed anything, but because you stopped contradicting yourself. Alignment is honesty. The more honest you are about what you're feeling, what you're avoiding, what you're ready for, the more the pattern can meet you where you are. You were never meant to beg for clarity. Clarity is what rushes in when you stop pretending, when you admit the truth of what you already know. The pattern doesn't ask you to be fearless. It asks you to be honest about your fear. That's the doorway. Not transcendence, not perfection, just the willingness to see clearly what you've been avoiding. Because when you stop resisting what is, you open to what could be. Possibility does not bloom in denial, it blooms in spaciousness. Everything is trying to help you remember. The delay is not a punishment. The closed door is not rejection. The silence is not abandonment. Each one is a recalibration, a redirection, a sacred nudge that says, not here, not yet, keep listening. But when you treat every detour as a disaster, you miss the message. You tense up, you shrink, you begin broadcasting panic instead of presence. And the pattern pauses, not out of cruelty, but out of precision. It cannot deliver what you're not open to receive. To become a receiver, you must first become available. Not busy, not trying, not proving, just available. Emotionally, energetically, willing to say yes to what's aligned and no to what isn't, even if what's aligned scares you. Especially then. The path of resonance often looks illogical. It asks you to leap when the world says wait, to pause when everyone else is rushing, to follow the quiet instead of the crowd. This is not rebellion. This is obedience to your inner knowing, and that knowing always precedes the miracle. You are not here to force alignment. You are here to follow it. And following alignment is not passive. It's the most alive you'll ever feel. It's the hum in your chest when you say the thing you were afraid to say. It's the breath that deepens when you finally walk away from something you've outgrown. It's the feeling of time slowing down when you choose truth over comfort. These are not spiritual highs. They are signals. And when you follow them, you move into a state of flow that cannot be faked. Flow does not mean everything is easy. It means everything is meaningful. You begin to see the pattern behind the moment. You feel the music beneath the noise. You stop asking, is this working? And start asking, am I listening? That shift turns every circumstance into a collaboration, even the hard ones, especially the hard ones, because the pattern doesn't just speak through joy. It speaks through resistance, through tension, through breakdowns that are secretly blueprints. The breakdown is the moment the old frequency can no longer hold you. You crack, not because you are weak, but because you are growing. And what breaks is not you. It's the version of you that was too small for what's next. When you stop clinging to it, the next version steps forward. Not as a fantasy, as a frequency. Growth doesn't always feel like momentum. Sometimes it feels like stillness, like standing in a moment so vast, so silent, that the only thing left to hear is your own breath. But even in that stillness, you're moving. Not outward, but inward. You're recalibrating, and what you integrate in stillness becomes the foundation you'll stand on when the next wave of expansion arrives. Integration is the most overlooked part of transformation. Everyone chases the breakthrough, the epiphany, the energy surge. But what happens after the insight is just as important. That's where embodiment begins. You don't change because you had a moment of clarity. You change because you live differently afterward. You speak with new awareness. You set boundaries you used to avoid. You show up where you used to hide. These are the quiet signs that your frequency has shifted. Not because you talked about it, because you lived it. The pattern pays attention to embodiment. It doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you demonstrate. When you begin behaving like the version of you who already knows, life doesn't hesitate. It delivers in kind. You may not always notice it right away because the evidence shows up subtly at first. A new opportunity that feels just right. A conversation that changes direction. A moment where you normally would have shrunk, and this time you don't. This is the quiet revolution. It's not loud. It's not flashy. But it's permanent. You're not here to be impressive. You're here to be integrated. You're not here to speak all the language of healing. You're here to live in a way that no longer contradicts your essence. And the beauty of the pattern is that it doesn't hold grudges. It's always ready to meet you where you are. Every new decision, every new awareness opens another doorway. There is no final test. There's only the next invitation, the invitation to pause, to choose, to become. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to be present. You don't need to know the whole path. You just need to move from your center. And when you do, you will be astounded by how quickly the world rearranges. Every adjustment you make from presence sends ripples across timelines you cannot yet see. A boundary quietly upheld in one moment may close a door to a version of you that no longer fits. A breath taken instead of a reaction may shift an entire dynamic. The smallest frequency shifts create the greatest structural changes in the pattern because they come from alignment, not ego. There is no need to announce your growth. You don't need to convince anyone of how far you've come. You don't need to be witnessed to be real. The pattern is already responding. The field listens more to who you are in silence than who you perform as in public. Energy never lies. When your internal state changes, you will see it mirrored back to you, often in ways too perfect to explain. You are not here to chase anything. You are here to become. The more you embody what you once pursued, the less you need to explain your path. People will feel your presence and align accordingly. Some will move closer, some will fade. Both are part of the reordering. The versions of you that operated from survival, that depended on performance, that begged for permission, those parts served you once. They were never a mistake, they were strategies, and now they are fading. Not because you've become someone new, but because you're no longer pretending to be someone you're not. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you strengthen the signal. Every time you say no, when you used to say yes out of fear, the pattern realigns, not in months, immediately. Subtle maybe, but not insignificant. That subtle shift is your next life being born in real time. This is where you start to understand power differently, not as control, but as clarity. You don't need to dominate energy to work with it. You just need to be honest about where you are and what you're no longer willing to carry. And that honesty, when paired with presence, becomes your creative fuel. You may still have moments of doubt. That's human, but you won't drown in them anymore. You've learned how to listen without collapsing. You've learned to observe without over-identifying. Doubt is no longer a stop sign. It's just a moment asking to be met with compassion. You're not being tested. You're being tuned. You're not falling apart. You're being refined. And every time you return to yourself, no matter how many times you've drifted, you rewrite the pattern in your favor. The journey was never about becoming someone worthy. It was about remembering that you always were. There will be days when you forget. Days when the world feels dense again, when the old thoughts creep back in like they never left. That doesn't mean you've lost your way. It means you're passing through another layer. Each return holds more wisdom. Each cycle deepens your integration. What once took months to recover from will now pass through you in hours, maybe minutes, not because the world changed, but because you did. Stability isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to feel without collapsing. It's the skill of meeting what arises without losing yourself in the story. This is emotional sovereignty. The moment you realize that no one outside of you controls your vibration unless you hand them the dial, and you've stopped handing it over. This doesn't mean you isolate or armor yourself. It means you recognize that your field is sacred. Your peace is not something to be bargained with. It is not something you must defend. It is something you embody. When you walk with that frequency, the world adjusts. Some people will not resonate with it. That's not your burden. That's clarity. Clarity is a kindness. When you know who you are, the pattern can stop testing your boundaries. It knows you'll hold them. When you know what you're worth, the pattern can stop sending echoes of your past. It knows you won't re-enter them. Your vibration becomes a filter, a natural sorting mechanism. No more proving, no more convincing. You are no longer available for anything less than truth. This doesn't make you rigid. It makes you precise. The more precise your field becomes, the more gracefully life flows. Opportunities don't just arrive, they align. Conversations open, support surfaces. What felt like resistance becomes orchestration. You look back and see the perfection in the delays, the brilliance in the detours, the mercy in what didn't work out. You begin to trust not because you've memorized the philosophy, but because you've lived it. You've seen what happens when you act from fear, and you've seen what happens when you trust the pull, the pause, the yes, that didn't make sense but changed everything. That trust is not naive, it's earned. Now you walk differently. You speak with fewer words, but more weight. You carry space. You don't need to be the loudest one in the room. You don't need to be first. You move in rhythm with something deeper than urgency. You've stopped needing to prove and started choosing to be. There is a stillness to power that most miss, a presence, a hum. When you feel it in yourself, you stop chasing it in others. You become the source, not in ego, but in alignment. You're not holding on anymore. You're holding steady. What once overwhelmed you now sharpens you. Challenges aren't smaller, but your center is stronger. You've grown roots beneath the surface of the self. Unshakable not because life is easier, but because you are no longer confused about who you are when the storm comes. You have a frequency now, a resonance that you return to regardless of how the world moves around you. This is the work no one sees. The invisible alignment, the inner reordering that can't be posted, proven, or paraded. And yet it's what shifts timelines. It's what bends outcomes. It's what calls in realities that feel impossibly perfect. Because you finally match them. Matching is not pretending. It is embodying. An embodiment doesn't ask you to always feel perfect. It asks you to remain congruent. If you feel grief, be with it. If you feel doubt, don't perform over it. But even in the middle of emotion, remember your knowing. Feel the wave, but don't let it carry you into someone else's story. Hold your shape. That's the essence of inner mastery. You don't have to earn what's next. You have to become resonant with it. This is not a reward system. It's a reflection system. And your reflection is changing because you finally believe you deserve to see something new. It used to feel like everything was just out of reach. Now you understand. It wasn't out of reach. It was waiting for you to soften, to trust, to clear space. The pattern is always ready. It was never holding out on you. It was holding space for you to align. And now you do. You align without needing certainty. You trust without demanding proof. You act before all the lights turn green because you've stopped outsourcing your safety. The version of you who used to wait has dissolved. You're not waiting anymore. You're moving calmly, powerfully, without spectacle, because your movement is not performance, it's guidance. There is a quiet revolution happening inside of you. You are no longer shaped by circumstance. You are shaping circumstance through your presence, through your intention, through your being. People will ask what changed. They'll feel it before they understand it. They'll say your energy is different, that something about you is quieter, clearer, stronger. They'll notice they feel more like themselves when they're around you. That's the signal of alignment. It's not about you. It's about what you unlock in others by being who you really are. This is what happens when you stop chasing potential and start becoming the evidence. Your life speaks before you do. Your energy arrives before your name. And what you once had to explain now needs no words at all. You are becoming undeniable, not because you demand to be seen, but because your presence is too coherent to overlook. This isn't about being louder, it's about being clearer. When you know what you carry, you don't need to announce it. You just live it. And the pattern echoes back accordingly. You'll begin to notice how your very presence filters reality. Certain things no longer arrive at your doorstep, not because you're lucky, but because you've stopped resonating with drama, with doubt, with distortion. Energy can't stick where it's no longer invited. You don't have to defend your peace. You just stop participating in frequencies that disturb it. This is energetic sovereignty, not control, not resistance, but precision. You know what you're a match for, and you live accordingly. You become more interested in alignment than in approval, more devoted to congruence than to comfort. The trade is worth it, always. You might lose a few things in the process. People, patterns, opportunities that once felt essential. but you will never lose anything that was truly in resonance with who you're becoming. Let it fall, let it move, let the space clear itself. The pattern never subtracts without preparing to multiply. What's coming is not a reward, it's a reflection. And your new life is not something you chase. It's something you allow, something you invite, something you become. There's no more room for pretending now, no more space for compromise. The version of you who could tolerate disconnection is gone. You've built something more stable in their place. A presence rooted in embodiment. A voice that no longer wavers. A vision that no longer waits. And now the work changes. It's not about gathering more tools. It's about living what you know. Integrating what you've learned. Letting your practices become instincts. Letting your clarity shape your decisions without hesitation. This doesn't mean life will be without challenge. It means challenge will no longer threaten your identity. You'll still feel discomfort, but it won't define you. You'll still encounter uncertainty, but it won't confuse you. Your center is too steady, too practiced, too trusted. And that center becomes your true power, not your performance, not your perfection, your presence. People won't understand how you navigate chaos with calm, how you walk into storms and remain dry. But you'll know because you've spent time building this steadiness. You didn't buy it. You didn't borrow it. You built it breath by breath, choice by choice, moment by moment. And now it carries you. There is something powerful that happens when you stop reacting to every flicker of emotion or flicker of external drama. You become a channel instead of a sponge. Energy moves through you, but it doesn't live in you. Thoughts arise, but they don't take over. You observe without attachment. You act without grasping. This is the birth of energetic maturity, not control, stability, not detachment, presence. Your nervous system begins to recalibrate to a new baseline. Peace no longer feels like a rare event. It becomes your default. And from that baseline, your reality organizes itself differently. The conversations you attract deepen. The opportunities feel tailor-made. The timing, the movement, the rhythm, it all feels like music because you've become a clear instrument. You no longer manipulate the tempo. You move with it. And your movement is not hesitant. It's sovereign. Every step taken from this place becomes exponential. Because you are no longer stepping from doubt, you're stepping from embodied clarity. And clarity collapses timelines. The life you wanted when you started this journey feels almost small now. Not because your dreams were wrong, but because your capacity has expanded. You've stopped asking for safety and started choosing expression. You've stopped waiting for signs and started acting as the signal. This is not arrogance, it's arrival. You have arrived in your own energy. You no longer borrow from others. You're no longer building on shaky ground, and you don't need to be louder to be heard. You need only to speak from alignment. When you speak from that place, your voice carries further than any volume could take it. This is the difference between trying to make things happen and allowing what is aligned to find you. You stop pursuing, you start responding. You let the pattern initiate the next move because you trust its intelligence more than your panic. And when you let the pattern lead, miracles become normal. Not because life becomes easier, but because you've stopped interfering with your own flow. When now something subtle begins to unfold. You stop chasing goals just to prove something. You stop trying to heal every wound before taking action. You stop using your spiritual growth as another reason to delay your life. You realize that wholeness isn't a milestone, it's a mindset. One you can choose now, not later. And from that mindset, creation becomes inevitable. You don't need to make something of yourself. You are the thing being made. The pattern isn't working against you, it's working through you. And your only task is to listen closely enough to hear what it's saying. Right now, it's saying, you're ready. You've always been ready. You've released the need to be saved by transformation. You are no longer trying to earn a future self through suffering. Instead, you're partnering with the pattern. You're allowing it to move through you, not around you. And in this allowing, you're discovering a truth that once seemed impossible. You're already whole. From this place, you stop confusing evolution with punishment. You stop framing challenges as evidence that you're failing. Instead, you begin to recognize the invitation in every moment. You see how even the friction carries information, how even the delay holds timing, how the messiest parts of the process are not proof of misalignment, but sometimes the pressure that crystallizes your clarity. You stop trying to be ahead of schedule. You stop measuring your life against timelines that were never yours to begin with. You no longer worship speed, you worship resonance. And you understand now that what resonates is what remains, not because you held it tightly, but because it met you at your truth. Now your movement becomes lighter, your intentions become cleaner. You are not acting from fear of what will happen if you don't, but from inspiration for what wants to unfold if you do. There's a calm behind your momentum now, a rhythm, a quiet trust, and in that quiet trust, something strange begins to occur. You feel less urgent, yet more things happen. You take fewer actions, yet they're more effective. You say less, yet you're understood more. That's what alignment does. It removes the friction, the noise, the layers of performance that cloud the signal. What's left is essence, and essence is magnetic. This is not about bypassing effort. It's about making sure your effort is rooted in truth. When your actions come from alignment, they produce 10 times the impact with 1/10 of the strain. You don't burn out when you're creating from flow. You don't collapse when your foundation is presence. And you begin to see how much time you used to spend managing impressions, pleasing people, chasing approval. That version of you didn't know there was another way, but now you do. And with that knowing comes a responsibility, not to be perfect, but to be honest, not to fix everything, but to stay awake. Awake enough to feel when you're slipping into the old script. Awake enough to pause before you betray your knowing. Awake enough to recognize that no one else's path can replace your own. This is where power returns, not as a surge, but as a steadiness, a sense that you're not behind, that you're not broken, that the pattern didn't forget about you. It was preparing you. The pattern doesn't prepare you with comfort. It prepares you with clarity. It strips away what you thought you needed so that what's truly aligned can come in unobstructed. It lets the false crumble so the real can stand. And in the moment, it feels like loss. But what you're actually experiencing is a return, a homecoming disguised as surrender. You no longer confuse uncertainty with danger. You've learned that the unknown is not a void, it's a canvas, and what you bring into it matters. The state you carry into each moment doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects what happens next. Energy is not passive, it's directive. Your frequency is a set of instructions, and reality follows them with exact precision. So now you choose carefully, not fearfully, carefully. You notice what contracts you and you pause. You notice what opens you and you lean in. You make your alignment more important than your performance, your clarity more valuable than your pace. The desire to rush fades because you trust what's unfolding. You don't need to control the rhythm, you're in sync with it. You no longer need to micromanage the future, you're in relationship with it. You co-create with the pattern instead of arguing with it. That co-creation feels like grace. It feels like meeting yourself in real time, like standing in a moment and realizing this is the one you were asking for all along. It didn't come with fanfare. It didn't look the way your ego would have packaged it. But it's here, and it's whole, and it's yours. You stop trying to make life meaningful. You start noticing the meaning that was always there in the pause between thoughts, in the breath that steadies your nervous system, in the silence after something ends. These are not empty spaces. They are entry points. This is where real power lives, not in constant forward motion, but in being able to recognize the weight of the moment you're in, to see its intelligence, to bow to its timing. You're no longer chasing alignment. You are alignment. You no longer ask to be shown what's next. You are already walking it. You've stopped waiting for clarity to arrive from the outside. You are the clarity now, and people feel it. They feel it in your stillness, in your decisions, in the way you don't need to prove yourself anymore. You don't seek confirmation because your embodiment confirms itself. What once felt like work now feels like expression. What once felt like a climb now feels like flow. And it's not because life suddenly got easier. It's because you finally stopped resisting the ease that was available all along. You didn't become worthy. You remembered that you already were. You've stopped mistaking effort for alignment. You've seen firsthand that pushing harder doesn't always move you forward. Sometimes it just exhausts you. And now you're more interested in movement that emerges from resonance than from force. You don't want a life that's held together by willpower. You want a life that's shaped by flow. Flow is not passive. It's not a lack of direction or purpose. It's the result of deep internal clarity. When you're clear on who you are, what you value, and what you're no longer willing to compromise, your actions become efficient. Your decisions become direct. You don't hesitate, not because you're fearless, but because you're congruent. Congruence creates flow. When your thoughts, feelings, and actions are in alignment, everything you do carries weight. You don't have to over-explain. You don't have to seek approval. Your integrity speaks louder than your words. From this place, boundaries become natural, not walls, not reactions, but clear lines that define your peace. You don't need to justify them. You don't need to rehearse them. You simply hold them, because your nervous system has learned what safety feels like, and anything outside of that is no longer compatible. This is what embodiment gives you. Not perfection, not immunity to life's challenges, but an internal compass that no longer spins when the world tilts. You may still wobble, but you return faster. You may still question, but you no longer abandon yourself in search of someone else's answer. There's a rhythm to living this way. It's not always visible from the outside. To someone watching, it may seem like you're doing less. But what's really happening is refinement, precision. You've stopped scattering your energy across 1,000 options and started channeling it through the one that's true. And that truth ripples through your relationships, through your presence, through the quiet way you walk into rooms and change the atmosphere without trying. That's the power of alignment. It doesn't chase, it magnetizes. People feel safe around someone who knows themselves, not because they're perfect, but because they're settled. They're not trying to be someone else. They're not looking for constant feedback. They are simply whole. You're no longer living to be chosen. You're choosing. You're no longer chasing alignment. You're being it. And when you live this way, life doesn't just get easier, it gets clearer. You begin to recognize what's truly yours. You stop grabbing at everything. You let things come to you. And they do. The less you chase, the more you attract. The less you explain, the more you're understood. The less you control, the more life responds. You've stepped into a different kind of power, and it doesn't make noise, it makes space. You've become more sensitive, not weaker. You notice the subtle shift in a room before words are spoken. You feel the energy behind someone's sentence more than the surface of it. You catch the hesitation in yourself before you betray your intuition. This is not fragility, it's refinement. You are tuning to the truth faster, and that sensitivity, once inconvenient, is now your compass. The world may still ask you to numb, to ignore, to override, but you won't. Not anymore. You've realized that desensitizing yourself for the sake of fitting in is too expensive. Every time you did, you lost a piece of yourself. Now you're gathering those pieces again, reclaiming the parts that once made you feel too much. The parts that were never broken, just too honest for a world still addicted to pretending. You've come to understand that healing is not erasing your pain. It's letting it move without controlling you. It's giving space to the part of you that's afraid, without letting it drive. It's replacing performance with presence. You don't need to act strong. You are strong. Strength is in the tenderness, the ability to stay open even after what you've survived. You don't need to armor up. You need to stay in your body, to feel what arises, to move through life awake, not armored, because you've seen what happens when you shut down to avoid discomfort. You delay your arrival. You block your own light. You send the message to the pattern, I'm not ready to receive. But now you are. You're not resisting discomfort. You're listening to it. You're meeting it with softness, and from that softness, strength emerges. Not loud, not sharp, just steady. You no longer think of transformation as a series of dramatic moments. You know it's in the micro decisions, the pause before the reaction, the breath before the email, the choice to walk away when your body says no, even if your mind says maybe. These are not small, they are sacred. They're where timelines split. They're where new lives begin. There's nothing left to prove now. The race is over. You're not ahead or behind. You're here. And this moment is enough. You don't need the next thing to validate your progress. You don't need someone else's recognition to make your clarity more real. You see yourself now, fully, finally. And that changes the way you move through the world. You've stopped leaking energy into situations that don't match your frequency. You've stopped bending in ways that dishonor your truth. You've stopped filling space just to avoid silence. Now you understand the power of stillness. You understand the frequency of emptiness. You're not afraid of space anymore. You know it's where the next version of you is waiting. And you're walking there, not to escape, but to arrive. There's a kind of peace that comes when you're no longer in opposition to yourself. When your thoughts, your feelings, and your choices are finally moving in the same direction. That peace isn't always exciting. It's not loud or dramatic, but it's magnetic. It builds a life that feels like breathing instead of bracing, like arriving instead of proving. You've stopped negotiating with your intuition. You hear it and you respond. You trust the first message instead of waiting for a second sign. You no longer need to be convinced. That inner whisper is no longer a question. It's a compass. You follow it not because you're certain where it leads, but because you're certain it's yours. And in following it, you've become fluent in the language of resonance. You can feel when something is for you, even if it doesn't make sense yet. You can feel when something is off, even if everyone else is saying yes. You've stopped outsourcing your discernment. You've stopped needing a consensus to confirm your knowing. This is what it means to live in alignment, not to be right all the time, but to be real, to make decisions from your center instead of your conditioning, to move because you're called, not because you're reacting. And the more you do this, the more graceful life becomes, not because the challenges disappear, but because you're no longer fighting them from disconnection. You don't need to pretend anymore. Pretending is heavy. Pretending costs too much. You've seen the toll it takes to walk through the world with a mask on your face and a disconnect in your chest. You've lived that chapter, and now you've turned the page. Now your honesty is the foundation, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. You don't sugarcoat your boundaries, you don't water down your truth, but you don't weaponize it either. You've found the middle ground, truth with grace, clarity with kindness. You don't speak to be heard, you speak to be clean, and that cleanliness is what makes your voice powerful. You've discovered that the most powerful frequency in the world is presence. Not performance, not perfection, just presence. The ability to be with what is, to breathe through discomfort, to stay in the moment when everything in you wants to run. And in that stillness, you've realized something no one could have taught you. You were never behind. You were always right on time. Every version of you has brought you here. The parts that tried too hard, the parts that shut down, the parts that betrayed themselves for love, they all carried a piece of the truth. And now you're the one who gets to hold it fully. not with shame, but with reverence. You're no longer fixing yourself. You're finally listening to the self that was never broken. You've stopped performing wholeness and started embodying it, not because you've healed everything, but because you've stopped abandoning yourself while you heal. You no longer wait until every part is resolved to live. You don't postpone your joy until you feel complete. You carry both, the becoming and the being, the ache and the aliveness, the refinement and the rawness, and that wholeness, the inclusion of all of it, is the real healing. You've let go of the idea that clarity must be constant. You now understand that clarity moves like breath. Inhale, exhale, it contracts before it expands. It quiets before it shouts, and in the gaps, in the pauses between the certainty, there's something sacred. Trust. Trust not in what you can see, but in what you're becoming. There's an intelligence in your rhythm now, a deep trust in your own pulse. You don't override your timing to match someone else's urgency. You don't rush decisions to satisfy external pressure. You let things unfold, not from laziness, but from respect. Respect for your own process, for the way your inner world moves, for the knowing that has always spoken, softly but consistently, beneath the noise. This is a different way of living. It's not rooted in productivity. It's not sustained by adrenaline. It's paced by presence. And presence is what allows you to finally feel your life instead of race through it. You taste things, you look people in the eye, you hear yourself before you answer. You take your time, not because you're uncertain, but because you're sacred. And now, even your ambition feels different. It's not driven by lack. It's not a reaction to not being enough. It's an overflow, a natural expansion from a place of fullness. You create not to prove your value, but to express it. You don't need to dominate your field. You just need to be honest in it. When you show up that way, everything adjusts to meet you. The clients, the collaborators, the community. They don't come to be impressed. They come to resonate. You've stopped trying to be everything. You're not for everyone, and that's your freedom. You don't contort to stay relevant. You don't dilute to stay included. You know what you carry, and you know who it's for. That knowing is what keeps you grounded. That knowing is what keeps your energy clean. You've outgrown the version of you that needed to be chosen. Now you choose. You choose the projects that light you up, the people that honor your pace, the boundaries that protect your presence. You no longer ask if you're too much. You ask if the space is ready to hold all of you. And if it's not, you move on. You don't shrink anymore, you expand. You no longer shrink to be palatable. You no longer soften your truth so others won't feel discomfort. You no longer apologize for your clarity, for your insight, for the energy you carry that doesn't fit inside someone else's expectation. You've reclaimed the pieces of you that used to feel too bright, too direct, too deep. And now they are your compass. You do not demand space anymore. You become space. And in that space, others either rise to meet you or fall away. You don't chase. You don't explain. You trust the current of resonance to arrange what belongs. That's not ego. That's evolution. There's a liberation that comes with no longer requiring agreement. You speak your truth, not to convince, but to align, not to argue, but to declare. You don't need everyone to understand. You only need to honor the version of you that can no longer pretend. This level of alignment may look like solitude at times. It may look like walking away from familiar roles, familiar patterns, familiar people, but the loneliness doesn't last. Because once you make space for what's real begins to arrive. It shows up in conversations that nourish instead of deplete, in partnerships that don't need fixing, in moments that feel like confirmation without needing explanation. And you begin to see that the things you were clinging to were never the blessing. They were the barrier. You don't fear the unknown anymore. You walk into it, not blindly, but open. You understand that the next version of you won't be unlocked by logic. It will be revealed by movement, by willingness, by the choice to keep showing up, even when you don't yet know what's on the other side. You are no longer trying to predict the future. You are creating it by the frequency you embody in the present. That's not theory. It's mechanics. The pattern mirrors what you stabilize. So you stabilize truth. You stabilize integrity. You stabilize ease. And from that stability, your reality rearranges. The more you live like it's already yours, the more it moves toward you. Not because you're chasing, because you're finally still enough to receive. This is what you've been building, not an empire, a frequency, not an image, a field. And it speaks louder than anything you could say. You walk into rooms differently now, not to be noticed, but because you notice more. You see the threads. You hear the subtext. You feel the truth behind what people say, and your presence shifts what's possible for everyone around you. You've become the evidence. And now the pattern doesn't have to wait anymore. It meets you where you've already arrived. You've realized that embodiment isn't a milestone. It's a moment-by-moment decision. It's not something you achieve and keep like a trophy. It's a frequency you return to, again and again, especially when things wobble, especially when old thoughts knock on the door, especially when life tests your new standard by showing you old mirrors. But you don't fall for them anymore. You see them, you acknowledge them, and you choose differently. Your new normal is built on subtle decisions. You trust the pause more than the push. You let silence carry the weight instead of filling space with noise. You don't explain yourself to be accepted. You express yourself to be clear. And if the room can't hold it, you don't shrink. You walk, not out of anger, out of knowing. This knowing isn't aggressive, it's not performative, it doesn't need to be proven, it just is. A quiet current beneath your choices, a hum behind your voice. You don't need to be loud when your energy is unmistakable. You've stopped rushing into alignment and started resting in it. That rest is powerful. It regenerates your nervous system. It sharpens your discernment. It expands your receptivity. You begin to see that effort is no longer your primary currency. Energy is, clarity is, embodiment is. When you live this way, you don't attract through manipulation. You magnetize through authenticity. You don't perform peace, you become it. You don't try to heal people. You hold such integrity in your own field that others remember what wholeness feels like just by being near you. You are no longer trying to be chosen. You've already chosen. You've chosen to stop waiting for confirmation from people who were never calibrated to your truth. You've chosen to move even when no one claps, to rise without needing to be seen, to follow your resonance even when it costs you comfort. That kind of movement sends a signal to the pattern, a clean one, and the pattern responds immediately, because it's not responding to your circumstances, it's responding to your frequency. And your frequency is no longer desperate, it's no longer diluted, it's no longer distorted by trying to be digestible for everyone else. You're not digestible anymore, you're undeniable. You've stopped living in reaction to what's outside of you. Now the external reflects the internal, not always instantly, but always accurately. You don't panic when there's a pause. You hold, you align, you prepare, you receive. And when you receive, you do so with grace. No longer surprised that good things are finding you, but deeply grateful that you finally let them. Not because you became worthy, but because you stopped arguing with the part of you that always was. You are the resonance. You are the clarity. You are the match. You've walked through questions that never had answers until you stopped looking for them in logic. You've reached beyond teachings, tools, and techniques to discover that the most sacred knowledge was never hidden. It was embedded in your being. You didn't need to be fixed. You needed to be remembered. And now, at the end of this journey, something profound becomes clear. Life makes sense now, not because everything is perfect or painless or finished, but because you've awakened to the truth that was always whispering beneath the chaos. It was never happening to you, it was happening through you. Every delay, every detour, every strange and perfect coincidence was the pattern pulling you inward, not to change who you are, but to show you who you've always been. You've been the student and the teacher, the seeker and the found, the dreamer and the dreamed. You've traveled countless steps, only to arrive right where you started, within yourself. The difference now is that you finally see what was always there, a creator, a signal, a soul saturated in possibility. This is the moment you stop waiting for permission, for validation, for clarity. You are not becoming the person who is ready. You are the person, and you've been ready all along. Now everything becomes intentional, not forced, chosen. You no longer live to earn your worth. You live to express it. You don't manifest to prove you're powerful. You manifest because you are present. You don't ask the pattern to show up for you. You show up for the pattern, knowing that every breath you take sends ripples through reality. You are not watching life unfold. You are unfolding it. Through your awareness, through your attention, through the energetic decisions you make moment by moment. And you understand now that alignment is not a destination. It's a returning, a reorientation to your essence. When you forget, you don't spiral, you pause. When you drift, you don't collapse, you recalibrate. This is what changes everything. Not that life stops challenging you, but that you no longer lose yourself when it does. You carry the tools now, but more importantly, you embody the truth. You no longer ask, how do I shift? You ask, what version of me is ready to lead? And then you become that version, not someday, but now. You speak differently, you breathe differently, you hold space differently, not because you're trying to, but because your center is no longer built on effort. It's built on embodiment. And from that center, life bends. You don't need one more ritual, one more sign, one more strategy. You've received the final transmission. You are not separate from the pattern. You are its rhythm, its intention, its unfolding. So go live the version of life that already exists inside you. Go walk as the answer, not the question. You're not just ready. You are the reason it all makes sense now.